Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
I am so tired of people hating on this show. Yes, it is not perfect. This show is not Lord of the Rings. It is an original story. It does not have to follow Tolkien's lore and timelines. You need to watch it as if Lord of the Rings did not exist. If you saw this show and had never heard of Lord of the Rings before, you would not be so negative.
That is still so relevant to what we're going to be talking about. That's why I brought it up. Hello, everybody. Hail and howdy. Welcome to another Autopsy stream. This time it's Rings of Power Season 2. Boy, Jed, we survived it. We got through it all. You missed the last Mortal Country, though, because you were on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know what happens when you're not there?
I'm afraid to ask.
Yeah, this happens, right? this happens when you're not there.
Oh God.
That's the original thing of shipping. The problem is nowadays it is morphed into a weirdness where you have stans, these fake fans, who will take characters that have no reason to be in a relationship whatsoever, gay or straight, and they will ship them together to be in a relationship. And most of the time they want it to be gay. All right. Jed, what do you think is going to happen next?
I don't want to know. Is the Jack and the ship random people on the stream? Like...
Oh no, it's worse than that. Okay, you haven't seen this yet, then have you? Okay,
I haven't.
Moments later.
It's essentially when you get somebody who takes individuals like D-Day Cobra. Okay, you see.
Yeah.
Oh God! Don't make
and then they take Ryan.
No.
Shut up.
This
They
is
take
worse than
swear to
you
God.
and
consider
they
Ryan.
make a fan art of maybe Ryan. Wait, no.
Here it goes.
This isn't going to take away from you making out with
this.
Ryan.
Let him finish.
Okay. Ryan like this, or the other way around, and sometimes 69, and it's just a bunch of internet freaks saying these two should be
It gets
together.
better.
Beat
Watch.
down that
Oh my
Sauron.
God! He can't control himself, Ryan.
Thank
Okay.
you.
How did he find out?
Somebody in Dermy's chat quickly clipped it and tweeted it out.
Oh God.
Oh, of course.
Of course he saw that.
This is my edit of it. I mean, that's what happens when you're not there. Dermy goes off the rails.
I'm kind of glad I wasn't there because I might have gotten a phone call from Ryan. It's like, what are these degenerates doing? These people that you hang out with? Do you just like make porn of me without my permission?
Dermy. The answer is it's Dermy.
It's
okay.
Dermy.
It's Dermy. We don't have any control over his degenerate retardation. We just try to monetize it whenever possible. Anyway, so hail and howdy, everybody. We are here to talk about some Rings of Power. The basically like the tail end of the grift. We're at the end of it. And there are a couple things that I legitimately would have. Our last chance, because there are a couple of legitimate discussions I want to have, but we're going to go over it. You guys know how this rolls. We're going to look at the whole thing. We have several points on. Essentially, when we would do one of these autopsy streams, it's usually not because something was great. It's because it was an utter failure. And Jed's here because he didn't get a chance to shit on it one last time.
Yeah, I missed out on the final episode, and there were so many great things to make fun of that episode.
I know. Oh, you'll get a chance now. You can air it out. But here's what I'm going to kind of go through tonight. We're going to go through this. We're going to go through the idea of the shipping. Reasons why this thing was dead on arrival. They made it for shippers, weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
The agenda was packed in it. The not so secret agenda. They queer baited the hell out of this show. And these are not any sort of order of importance. Just I'm going off the top of my head. The massive lore breaks. We didn't go a single episode without the lore breaks.
No, not one.
Not one. It was one of them.
Some of them were minor. Some episodes had minor lore breaks, but there was at least one lore break in every single episode.
And in the final one, in the finale, there were so many lore breaks, it's left massive plot holes that you have serious problems with.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, just in general, the writing, the direction, the look, the feel, the scenery, everything was such dog shit.
It
They're-
was terrible. They're not
So-
even consistent with their own inbuilt rules, like with Nenya when we get to that part with Adar. They're not consistent with their own rules. So why should they be consistent with Tolkien's rules?
I mean, so you just put the ring on and you're healed.
But it's temporary. It's only when you have
Yeah.
the ring on. So is Galadriel, she's going to put on Nenya at the end of the episode, right? Or at the end of the season and be partially healed of her Sauron injuries, but have to keep the ring on forever or she's going to bleed out? Like, if she ever takes off Nenya, is she going to bleed out? Those are the rules that Adar's thing shows us.
I don't know. So you put it in perfect example. They set up these rules. They set up these fake fanfic rules in order to facilitate the story they want to tell. I mean, I want to go right to this first thing now. I want to go into the shipping aspect because they built this entire season on shipping, whether it was queer baiting Sauron and Celebrimbor, whether it was creating what I called out. I want your opinion on this. Ethically ambiguous Astrid. She was a self-insert for a fanfic.
Was she?
I said that in Mortal Country last week. I look at it like this. She is a self-insert for one of the chick writers and the chick directors to put herself in there so she can effed by Isildur. Like, that's how I see it.
I mean, who's thirsting for Isildur, though?
Somebody.
Beta male.
I don't know. So you had that, and then you have the weirdness of Elrond and just about everybody because they wanted to ship in everybody. Then they even tried the weirdos to ship Galadriel and Adar, and then of course there is the ultimate ship for these weirdos, the Sauron Galadriel. I don't relationship.
Yeah. It's honestly one of the most disgusting ones that you mentioned. Like, some of the other ones are just stupid, but this one goes against everything Tolkien ever would stand for. This is worse, I think, than the gay shipping to Tolkien as a devout Catholic from over 100 years ago. Obviously, the gay relationships he wouldn't be okay with because that's the time he lived in. But I feel like this relationship is far worse than all the gay ones.
Because on the one hand, she represents pure good. He represents pure evil.
And no, it is not an opposites attract type situation.
No.
Just because they're on opposite ends of this goodness and evil spectrum, or at least they should be. Galadriel in the show is absolutely not a light person or a good person. She does more evil than Sauron does up until the end of season 2. But that doesn't mean that they're perfect for each other to make a balance. This whole, just like what you deal with in the Star Wars fandom all the time. Oh, balance in the Force means 2 Sith, 2 Jedi, and that's true balance or whatever. It's not how this stuff works. And Tolkien in these franchise, if it's a different franchise, of course, it follows different rules, but in Tolkien's especially, it's never going to be a situation where light and dark need to coexist like that.
Especially in Tolkien. In Tolkien, there should be no shadow. There, balance or the right of everything is there is no evil. Evil has been beaten soundly. That is the idea of Tolkien's perfect reality.
I mean, why else would they go to the Undying Lands where that's the way it works?
Yeah.
If that's the ultimate paradise, that's the goal in this universe. That is the goal for all these characters, is to get to the Undying Lands in their afterlife or whatever, or create a world like that. It's not, we need shades of gray. Tolkien's universe is not a shades of gray.
It's not like a universe that I'm creating where I believe in the harmony of balance, where there has to be good and evil.
What I write, it's the same way. I do like that harmony of balance.
And I literally call it that, the harmony of balance, where you can actually, if certain individuals can actually hear it in the universe, and they know when something's off, when it shifts. I'm of the belief that one cannot exist without the other. But in Tolkien's world, no, good needs to be ultimate triumph, and that's the lore, that's the foundation he plays with. So when you take And not to mention, too, you mentioned it. It doesn't work with these characters because guess what? She's married. Galadriel is married to Celeborn, who we still haven't seen.
I still think he's Adar. You know, whole, I had a line, I had a name that didn't, doesn't matter anymore.
But then he's dead.
I need to earn it back. I think it could still be Celeborn, and I think he could come back.
He got Caesared pretty good there, man.
I mean, so did Sauron. Death
Yeah, but
means nothing
Sauron's a
in this
demigod.
show.
Sauron's a demigod, and you.
It's true, but
Compor-
what does death mean to this show? What does good writing? If this were a good show, yes, he would be dead. But they're gonna pull off some like, oh yeah, Gandalf came back from the dead because God wanted him to.
He's
so
already
God,
an angel.
I know, but they're gonna pull an argument like that. Like, I am not surprised if halfway through season 3 they're just like, Adar's here, his name's Celeborn, and yeah, Iluvatar wanted him back, so he's back, just like Gandalf. Remember Gandalf? Remember Gandalf the White? And that's when he gets his blonde hair.
All I know is that it's ridiculous though to ship Galadriel with anybody when canonically Tolkien had her married with a child at this point who is without a I don't have another term for it, so I'll just use a common term. She's already dating Elrond.
She should be.
Yeah. So to have these guys go right here, the Rings of Power, Charlotte Brandstrom talks Galadriel being in love with Halbrand in the final episode. So let's read through this. In celebration of the final episodes of Rings of Power Season 2, Nerdist sat down with director of the season finale episodes, Charlotte Brandstrom. Brandstrom spoke to us about what it's like to direct epic battles, how to inject character into long fight sequences and motivations and fates of some of our favorite Middle-earth figures. She also mentioned that Galadriel was in love with Halbrand. That might make some of you very happy. Okay, you're laughing while I was reading that. Fight scenes.
That's very laughable.
Those weren't fight scenes. Those are people swinging and spinning and all kinds of ridiculous bullshit that was going on.
I had the immense privilege this last week of rewatching the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition trilogy. And of course, you have the battles of Helm's Deep and even the Battle of Pelennor Fields and whatnot, but Helm's Deep especially, where you see such logic and care going into these tactics and formations making sense and people operating within just clear rules that make sense. Like, even if you've never been in combat before or have studied combat or anything, you can look at, the Uruk-hai using shields all around the battering ram. And you're like, oh, that's actually a really good idea because there's archers coming. Like, it's presented in such a way that even someone who has no idea how military tactics of medieval eras worked and go, that makes sense. That's really smart. But these people, they couldn't even do that little bit. Watch that battle at Helm's Deep and go, yeah, maybe arrows can shoot people from a distance, and maybe elves would have more than 4 archers on a wall. Even these basic, obvious things are beyond their grasp to even comprehend. So yeah, long fight sequences, epic battles. I've seen more epic battles too 30 years ago on, I don't know, TV.
You were absolutely right too. The Siege of Eregion was over in one episode. And the sacking in the final episode lasted 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was sacking. The siege was over. So yeah, it's not a 2-episode battle.
You nailed it, dude. You absolutely nailed it when you said, yeah, there's going to be no fight over multiple episodes. It's one episode. And even what we got was ridiculous. So this is stupid. And to talk about the motivations and fates of some of our favorite Middle-earth figures, we all know the motivations and the fates of all of them. And each one of those major characters, they have beginnings, middles, and actual endings.
Well, they have you know why armor. They said this? Finding out what happens to these characters, because I don't think the writers or the stands that this show is made for, the shippers, have any idea where these stories actually end. So they are actually figuring this out for the first time. Because I would not be surprised if it was after season 1 that someone came to some of the writers and like, Isildur, he has to live, right? And they're like, wait, really? Yeah, he cuts the ring off Sauron's hand at the Battle of the Last Alliance. There's a Battle of the Last Alliance?
Yeah, you realize
Sauron's defeated? Like, I would not be surprised if that exact conversation happened in the writer's room after season 1 when Isildur vanished.
But J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, we're going to stick closer to the books.
Yeah, by having baby Shelob be the one who kidnapped Isildur and took him miles from the village.
I know. Just nobody saw it. Nobody saw it.
Spiders aren't exactly known as being like the hunter-gatherer types. They're more, hey, build a web, something's going to walk into the web. Not, I'm going to go venture out for 20 miles to look for prey. They're also not lions.
Shelob had been alive for like 1,000 years already.
Yeah. I think, was she a creation of Morgoth?
No, she had her own mother.
Okay.
I've seen some the Twitter user High King Feanor
Okay,
during
yeah,
this period
his
of
stuff
time.
was really good.
He was posting a lot of artwork in relation to commentary, especially during that Shelob moment. And he put up a piece of artwork of Shelob's mother, I guess, this
Okay.
giant, monstrous, mountain-sized spider demon. And Shelob was her last progeny.
Okay,
So
that's really
Shelob
interesting.
was alive during the First Age. Okay? She was alive. So she wouldn't be tiny little Shelob. She was already a demon. And as I know Jed will agree, no, we do not want her turning into a hot chick from
No,
Shadow of War. No.
I prefer Shadow of Mordor out of the two. Love the gameplay from Shadow of War though,
War, yeah.
except for I'm not a big fan of the siege elements, like with the
I
your
loved it.
strongholds.
I
But
loved
yeah,
that.
the lore in the second one, and even a little bit of the first one, is just horrendous. Even to my limited
Oh, the lore is
expertise.
bad. It's wrong.
It's really
but
bad.
The gameplay is just outstanding. That's why I love those games.
And it shows Celebrimbor as such a good character. He's got so much depth, so much lost.
That's what he was like in the real thing. He was the man on the ramparts at the very end, not a man in a muumuu crying in a room and being used for a pincushion. All right, let's keep going. So this is an interview, so we're not gonna do the whole thing. We're gonna cherry pick here. We'll start with those Nerdist. I'd love to go back to season 1 for a minute. Okay, no, we're gonna skip that.
Yeah, let's not do season 1. I'm already going through a hurricane right now. I can't relive past trauma at the same time.
Let's see. Where is it? I only just about Adar. We got to get to her.
While you look through that, I just want to respond to the chat. So Ariel, how could they follow the books when they are not supposed to be able to use them? So they have the rights to the appendices of the Return of the King, and it has all this lore in there. So what they have rights to, they aren't adapting. So they do have the events that they need, and now they have more rights to the Unfinished Tales, I believe it is, with season 2, so they can actually say the name Morgoth now. So they are getting more rights. So they have rights to what they should be adapting.
They made deals with Warner.
They have access to what they need. Clearly, they got the rights for the Balrog. That is the exact same Balrog, and they wouldn't have been able to do that. Like they didn't get Sauron for season 1.
They still effed it up, though. They still
effed it up. But like Sauron in season 1, when you see him in his metal form, that was completely decanonized by the second season. It was, slightly different because there's that whole like 25% different to be okay in Hollywood rule. So they had to change that because they didn't have rights to Sauron's metal form for season 1, but they clearly got rights to the Balrog.
All right. When bonded characters reunite after separation, it's always intense. Doubly so if it's Galadriel and Sauron. Can you talk a bit about crafting their sword fight reunion and what you wanted them each to bring the moment? First of all, bonded. I mean, here's the thing. I've seen this being said around in the Stan circles. They consider this canon.
They do. Or they don't care about canon. The show's all that matters.
That's usually it. They don't care about actual lore. They care about they care about what they see. This is one of those few times where a visual media is not the top tier of the canon. Tolkien's writings, everything he put to pen and paper, that's the top tier canon. And everything below that is an adaptation and not true.
For Tolkien specifically, I would add in a 1A and 1B type situation because a lot of people go to his letters as a source of canon. I do consider a lot of those legitimate, but if they contradict the books come first. So kind of what's published and then what he says in letters, and then adaptations are their own thing.
Yeah, because the letters, even though he tried to expand on ideas, those changes were never put into the later editions.
Yeah. That's why I don't see a lot of retroactive canon changes from any authors to be legitimate. That's why I make fun of what's her bucket, J.K. Rowling, for doing tweets to change canon of Harry Potter, like saying, they didn't have toilets until the 1800s. Before that, they just shit in their pants and magic it away. That's legitimately become canon apparently, but it was originally just a tweet. So I don't consider tweets any more reliable than letters,
unless it's in the actual book, unless it gets put in there.
Yeah,
with like
books
an
obviously
edition.
top tier, override any letter.
So, but unless something from the letters would get put in there, then you're right. I agree. 1A, 1B. It's still Tolkien, but it's him later in life ruminating on stuff.
And
So
the letters, from what I understand, have great stuff, and a lot of them
Mhm.
still obviously make sense. But there are slight contradictions that I've heard of. So I
Listen,
would resort
I
to the
can
books.
understand that. I have accidentally contradicted myself with ideas because I've forgotten I've done something.
I've done that in books before, but that's why I read my books like 7 times to make sure.
Yeah. All right. So first of all, so they're creating the idea that Sauron and Galadriel have a relationship, which is bullshit. It's not canon. It isn't real. But they believe it is, and so do these idiots. Brandstrom. Yeah, these two are very magnificent actors. You're already full of shit. Charlie Vickers and Morfydd Clark are abysmal.
Do
are-
either of them know what facial expressions are? Because
No.
Anatar's had the same face all season, except for when he's crying or coming, because we've seen his come face a few times. And Galadriel's just,
Either resting bitch face or angry bitch face.
yeah, that's not a whole lot of range.
Yeah. I was so happy I got one more for my final thumbnail.
What's her loving face? Is that just constipation when she looks at Halbrand and
That's the horse face. That's
the horse face. So we
That's the
got
horse
3
face.
faces from her.
Yeah.
That's her cum face.
Oh, God. I am not turned on at all. So the fact that the two of them, and they were also the most powerful people there. What?
Well, I missed that. What? Who's the most powerful people there?
Those two, Sauron and Galadriel, are the most powerful people on the field. Now, taking out the side part that Gil-galad had no reason to be there, he's not supposed to actually be there. I mean, he's High King.
Gil-galad alone was turning the tide in the original, as far as I'm aware, of course, in the Siege of Eregion. Like Gil-galad.
No, he was never there. He was never there.
Well, when he is in battle is what I mean. Sorry.
Oh, if he was actually there, he would. Yeah, he'd be an unstoppable war machine. Because I was asking Alf this in Hail Alf. I see in the chat. I was asking Alf this on Mordor Country. Gil-galad saw battle in the first stage, so he's one of those guys that would just the orcs that we saw in Rings of Power. They would be paper people to him.
Oh yeah, if you fought in the War of Wrath, nothing from the second or third age would really be a whole threat unless it's large numbers. But I do want to address Ariel again. Galadriel wasn't gonna become a Dark Queen. That was more Peter Jackson in that one scene, if I remember correctly.
And it's a test. It's her test for herself.
Yeah.
Can I resist the ring? Yeah.
So it's not something that she actually did or wanted to do or was a thing in the Second Age, especially.
Yeah, no. In the Second Age, she was basically doing nothing with her kid.
Yeah,
she's hanging
just
out,
being a good mom.
Yeah,
but yeah, that Dark Queen stuff. Yeah, that's kind of important too.
He went off to war.
But yeah, the Dark Queen stuff is fantastic. I love it in Fellowship, and kind of the contrast of with Gandalf is saying, hey, that's why we need a hobbit to do this, because any of us with any amount of actual power will get corrupted by it. So it further solidified the point why Frodo was the perfect ring bearer. But I don't remember that being in the books.
I would have to have a lore person solidify that for me. But the point is, at this point in time, even let's take this show for itself. She is not that powerful. She has no abilities.
None of the elves do. They're just dudes with pointy ears.
Yeah. They don't even have great acrobatics. I mean, I'm sorry. Legolas the Black, he's not that hot at what he does.
No.
Adar owned him in a second.
And then magically healed.
Magically healed.
Without even having it referenced.
I know.
But this is in a world where elves used to be powerful and then they're in decline. I mean, in the show it is, but that's what, like in The Witcher, elves from way back in the day before the conjunction of the spheres were these higher than life creatures, way better than humans, practically lower gods. And then after the conjunction, their powers faded until they're basically long-lived humans with pointy ears. But there's an explanation for that decline in universe. Whereas in Rings of Power, they're just like, yeah, the flower's gooey. I mean, the tree's gooey, but now it's not gooey.
Yeah. So the fact that the two of them were fighting against each other, I wanted to be very epic. This person can't speak. And when Sauron realizes that he's not going to, he's a freaking god without limiters. She should not be able to stand up to him. That's retarded that he was not going to win. That's when he starts to change his shape to distract her. So he tricks her, really, and becomes Halbrand for a while because he knew the feelings Galadriel had for him. I also think that Sauron was almost disappointed in the end because I think he would have liked to have Galadriel as his queen. And I think that even however malicious and dark Sauron is, he's the Dark Lord. He also believes very strongly that he's there to help Middle Earth. He's going to
And-
heal it all. Oh God.
That's what the show keeps trying to do is like,
Yeah.
his motives are pure, but he's doing the wrong thing. Like the wrong thing for the right reasons is kind of how they're portraying him. And that's one of the best and easy basic bitch ways to make a villain relatable is having good motives if they're doing the wrong thing. But that wasn't Sauron as portrayed in Tolkien's work. He was just power hungry, trying to fill in the power vacuum that Morgoth left. It's not complicated. Sometimes you're just evil. And that was the clear-cut thing with Tolkien. Good and evil is very clear-cut. And sometimes there's not a whole lot of depth to that. Like the lightness in Galadriel, she's a fantastic character in the books, and in the movies, of course, but it's not a big story that led to her being good. It's just kind of what she was.
She's not the hero.
Yeah.
Galadriel is essentially a powerful individual that helps the hero. The story is never built around her, ever. And that's one of the faults of this entire series, not just the season 2. They tried to build a story around a character who doesn't have that story. They tried to put her in a relationship with a guy who she would never be in a relationship with, or 2, that guy, Sauron, is not looking to get a booty call on Saturday night. He's looking to control everything.
Do you remember that line from Fellowship of the Ring between Gandalf and Sauron on the top of Isengard right before the eagle showed up? He said, he does not share power. Sauron will not share power with Sauron. He will use him to his own ends, of course, and be a foe ally for as long as it's beneficial to him. But the moment Sauron loses his usefulness, he's dead. So why would having a queen be anything that he was looking for? He doesn't want to share power with anyone. He wants to accumulate it and rule the earth.
Yeah, because
having a queen is antithetical to his motives.
Because there was never any good in him. He willingly, in this show, remember, they painted the idea, Sauron, he was made this way by Morgoth. No, he chose to follow Morgoth. And then when Morgoth fell, he repented in name only and then ran away and hid until he could consolidate his power and launch an assault on Middle-earth all his own as the new Dark Lord. There is no man who wanted to do good but events turned him evil. That doesn't exist. Sauron is Sauron. He's not some poor broken guy who just had a bad string of luck and ended up this way. And having him paired with Galadriel as Halbrand or anything, it wasn't done to tell a story. It was done to push it to weirdo shippers. Seeing Halbrand really affected Galadriel. What were her feelings for him? Here it is. Yeah, Galadriel obviously was in love with Halbrand. Jet,
how long did they know each other? In universe time, a week or two?
A week, maybe 2.
Because, they teleported everywhere. They went.
Yeah. So we talked about this last season. We wanted them to F. We know they purposely created sexual tension in the show. But it shouldn't go anywhere. I mean, we wanted it to for cringe factor. We wanted to cringe factor. But in reality, it
I'm really disappointed they didn't fuck on the battlefield.
Yeah, we didn't get the kiss. We didn't. They said there was going to be a kiss. There was no kiss, and we wanted it for cringe factor, and the stands wanted it because that would have, fed their fantasies of all this bullshit that keeps them locked into the weirdness that they perpetuate. But to have him say to say that she was in love with Halbrand. 1, there never was a Halbrand. That's not one of the many names of Sauron. And 2, she wouldn't be because she had a husband.
She was very loyal as a person. She wouldn't be going around falling in love with other men.
Yeah. And and that's the point I wanted to bring this up, essentially, with the fact that when you purposefully are writing these characters to be essentially CW romance drama bullshit, soap opera drama bullshit, your show is going to fail because you've abandoned the core tenets. You are not adhering to Tolkien's design. Tolkien, who believed in monogamy and a happily married husband and wife, who believes in true love. I mean, a lot of aspects of the stuff is true love, whether it's for your home or another individual, because let's be honest, the hobbits, they really just truly love the Shire. That's kind of the thing. They have a deep abiding love for the Shire. Something in weed, but they are they're but with to use the movies as an example, which is I know is not as heavily played on the books, Aragorn and Arwen. There's that's true love. I mean, so that's the stuff that he plays into, not, oh, we're giving you a cheap thing that she loves the bad boy. And also at the same time that it plays into this weirdo common thing they're doing these days, abuse is romance.
Oh God, I feel bad for the women who are attracted to these men to this point where that's what they look for.
Mhm.
Like, it's honestly sad that you're thinking this is what romance looks like. Abuse is not love.
No. Let me finish reading this, and I want to say one more part to it. Sauron knows this because he gets in her head, so he knows what she's thinking, what she's feeling. So when he immediately takes Halbrand's shape, he completely destabilizes her because that was her weakness. She had a very strong feelings for the king, for Halbrand, obviously the first season. Not so obvious, though. It wasn't so obvious the first season. It was tension in the air, but the one moment you think they were going to do was when they're sitting on the log at the end of the final episode or penultimate episode, and we thought there was going to be a moment, and we were going, yeah, but it was because we wanted it to be retarded, not because we wanted it to actually willingly break the lore. Because that for us, that would have been the capper on the lore breaks, is the thing. It wouldn't have been the actual fulfillment of our weird fantasies, because you see this, and I'll expand it to the rest of the shipping problems now. You see this, as soon as they made, let's be honest, the dude they cast as Adar was better looking than the dude in the first season. It's a better looking dude. And they turned him into a thirst trap. And all the weirdo shippers started doing fan art of him and Galadriel being together. Yeah. They started doing that.
It's so gross. And I know why they did it, partially because they had the opportunity with the recast, but Adar was one of the only characters that the general population liked, at least more so than anybody else. Adar was the one that had the most positive reception to him as a character, besides Big Tits McGee, of course. And so they wanted to capitalize on that, because in their minds, oh, you like this character? That means you want to fuck them. That is the only way that their brains work.
Yeah.
So you like Adar? Oh, you want us to make him more sexual? Okay, we can do that.
And that's all they do, because they do it with that. Then they do it with Celebrimbor and Sauron. That the entire season was a queer bait for those two. The entire season. It's all they wanted to do, have them F, all the fan of this net. And even Elrond and Galadriel, when they had the weird kiss in episode 7, the weird ass kiss where we all were, why are you doing this? There were other ways. No, you did it to feed into the shipping culture. And we talked about it, Isildur and ethically ambiguous Astrid, even Elrond and Durin the Fourth. We were making jokes about that this last season. All they care about is making all these characters F each other, because that's all the audience they're aiming for this once. They just want weird sex. They don't want real character development, because to these people, the only character development is shipping, which means sex. That's how deep they go with characters. They don't understand that there needs to be motivations. There needs to be slow walking, why they do something, challenges to their belief system, stuff like that. None of that happens here. At least they try to, and it's all surface level, and it doesn't really get a proper explanation ever.
Well, with all of that, they don't seem to understand the different types of love, because what you're saying is absolutely right. They just want to have sex. That's all that they understand about love. But there's those great friendships in Lord of the Rings, like Frodo and Sam. They sexualize that, saying, oh, it's secretly gay. No, it's just a great friendship. In the books, it was, of course, different, more master and servant relationship. But there's so many great examples of friendship, of love of people, love of country. Love is an important part of Tolkien, but not just Arwen and Aragorn types. And they just physically cannot understand that. Love means sex. That is all that it means.
Love
to them,
means
which
sex.
Is, it's not degenerate necessarily. It's just sad. If that's
for them,
all
it's degenerate, though. It's degenerate for them, because to them, as I brought up, abuse is a part of it.
That's
because when we were going over the epic one-on-one combat between Sauron and Galadriel at the end of the season, there were people out there that said that was a metaphor for them having sex.
I'm not surprised.
That when he stabs her with the crown, they were all touching themselves over that.
Oh, that's
when that happened.
penetration, yeah.
Yeah,
But
penetration.
every scene from Lord of the Rings, they've made sexual if it's between friends. Like Boromir dying and Aragorn kissing him on the head. They're all like, oh yeah, they secretly boned on the way here.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So either way, one of the reasons this show failed was because they tried to ship everything for people who, as Jed and I just clearly explained to you, who think everything in a relationship is just about sex, and that love can only mean sex, not friendship, not patriotism, not even just love, a general compassion, which is kind of what Gandalf has for everything, a general compassion. Anyway, so there we go. That's that. That's one of the reasons, for one of the chief reasons this show has failed. Now we're gonna bring somebody else who's coming to join us. Our good friend, son of Joxer. Hey, Joxer.
Hey there.
How you doing? So what do you think? What do you think? Were we kind of on there with that? We're okay where we're going?
Well, I've written my fair share of fanfic. And back in my day, it was written on message boards. And there were categories, right?
Yeah.
There was
smut, and then there was normal.
So there's fanfic, and then there was slash fic. Slash fic came from the Star Trek realm, as I recall.
I think I know where you're going.
Which is just, it would be people's characters' names in the header, as in Kirk / Spock, or Spock / Scotty, and it was just,
yeah.
It's not actually fanfic. It's a subset of erotica, like you said. It's smut.
Yeah,
usually gay.
Yes, usually.
That's where all these people came from.
That's these are the Tumblr people.
It's a separate genre that doesn't belong in. It's like even within the genre of fan fiction, it's a separate genre. It doesn't actually commingle.
But the people that are into it are the weirdos.
Yes,
from Tumblr, and to them, that's all that matters is the weird sex. So
like I saw a charity stream for the Alkalite, and that's all they wanted to talk about was shipping the characters in
all I care about.
Inappropriate ways that don't make sense to the plot.
Yeah,
like there's the scene where Elrond gives Galadriel a lockpick by leaning over to kiss her.
Yep.
And they really make the music do a lot of heavy lifting there, but they try to make this big romantic gesture, and it's like no one was shipping Galadriel and Elrond; they were shipping her with Halbrand. It's like
but they wanted it. But then there are those who will suddenly start to do it because they did. I saw that.
Maybe I just think on the shipping front, they kept throwing in red herrings that never went anywhere.
They do it to appease them all because I got to tell you, because I troll these assholes on next Twitter, I see their weirdo fan art all the time.
Oh, okay.
They make the fan art out of all of them. It's degenerate shit.
Some of them.
All right, so hail and howdy to everybody who's joined us while we're doing the first segment. We're happy to have all you guys here. We see you guys are talking about everything, so let's engage a little bit because this is also engaging everybody. And to what Ariel was saying right here, I think I find it right here. When we were talking about the Sam and Frodo stuff, yeah, Sam and Frodo love each other. But it's not sexual. It's not sexual. And that, if you see, they could have done that. And I bring this up because they could have done that with, and I'm going to bring it down because Ariel's profile pic is very borderline. Just realized that. She changed her profile pic again. That one's borderline. I don't know if I can leave that one up.
I think Jay Fraser has an interesting question because that's my question too. Do you think Adar and Galadriel's forced Ring of Power relationship because Adar is Celeborn?
I think it might be.
Like that was the only reason I could think of why he wouldn't tell her his former name.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be that.
Such a weird thing to mention if you're not going anywhere with it.
I mean, because Rachel brought it up when we did episode 7. When that happened, I was going, "Oh shit, she's going to be right." Oh shit, and then he got ganked before he said anything. I was like,
I don't think he's dead. He's one of the, like I said, one of the only likable characters, at least for the general population, the most at least. And they're not going to get rid of someone with as much popularity as him. So they're going to find some way to bring him back. I mean, maybe it gives him Nenya back and he can resurrect from the dead now, because why not? There's going to be some contrived bullshit. Or they might not even explain it, like Arondir.
He was
back.
magically healed. All right, let's touch on that right now. One of the things that has broken this for this entire series is the fact that one, power levels and abilities
all over the place.
It's all over the place. So people suddenly being healed. I'm sorry, does everybody have Wolverine level healing factor all of a sudden?
They must. I mean, this is a thing we've seen with a lot of modern projects like at Disney Star Wars. Lightsabers mean nothing anymore unless you're a side character.
Yep.
Everyone's getting stabbed through the stomach and being totally fine because this one guy had a second stomach, I guess, and this other chick is black, so she gets a free pass. Those seem to be the reasons.
That's
for
racist. That's racist.
But I don't know why Rondir survived. I can't think of a possible reason. And I didn't see it. I don't know if you did, Adam, the Stan's response to it, because when he got stabbed at the end of the penultimate episode, they were all saying, there's no way he's dead. Don't hurt my boy, Rondir.
And we all said he isn't dead. We said, I could see him moving. He's crawling. He's not dead, but he needs to have somebody heal him.
But
they
did they respond to him
do that. They
being
didn't
back?
even try to explain it. He's just fine the next episode. They don't even have a healing scene. Like when Galadriel jumps off a cliff, it's like, okay, the Stans can say, well, she was holding her.
The tree broke her fall. The tree broke her fall.
Yeah, or something stupid. Yeah.
Well, when the elves come back to life, they go back to Valinor. That's when they get resurrected there, and then they can never come back to Middle Earth. So the elves' spiritual forms elves are essentially immortal because they'll hang out in basically the ether in the Hall of Heroes, and then eventually they'll get corporeal form, but they're back in Valinor. So everybody that's dead is alive eventually, and they go back to where they came from, but they can't actually be there. So, and listen, I don't think anybody wants to go through the process of dying and rebirth. It's not pleasant. You could see, even in Peter Jackson's adaptation, Gandalf, when he goes from gray to white, that wasn't a pleasant experience.
No, that was no deal.
He talks about kind of going a little crazy, forgetting who he is and everything.
Yeah. I mean, he lived thousands of lifetimes, where beginning and ending of universe, and all stuff, and then boom, he's alive again. Except he is an angel, so there are other aspects to it.
That's a great example of what you were just about to start talking about, is the power levels. In Lord of the Rings, we knew Gandalf was some larger than life figure. So if anyone's going to be resurrected, there is a foundation for that. And fans could have all these great discussions about kind of like the classic who would win in a fight, Batman and whoever. With Lord of the Rings characters, you could absolutely do that. And we saw some of that in the extended editions, like, hey, Gandalf goes against the Witch King. What's going to happen? We can have those discussions because everyone's power levels are incredibly consistent. But in Rings of Power, I couldn't tell you if Nori could beat Sauron in a fight. I honestly couldn't tell you that because no one's consistent enough to make a statement like that.
So that brings us back to the point. Everybody's power levels are so inconsistent. We don't know, to go back to the article we just read a minute ago, we don't know if they're the most powerful on the field, because we don't know what the power levels are. That's one of the things that in Tolkien's lore, it's pretty clear what the power levels are. And Peter Jackson does a really good job of showing us the power levels, what you're dealing with. Especially the fact that when you know that Gandalf, to what you just talked about, when Gandalf faces off against the Witch King of Angmar, Gandalf is as powerful as he can be at that point with his limiters on. Because as we talked about in Mordor Country, when they decided to send the Maiar back again in the form of the 5 wizards as old men who could be trustworthy, they put limiters on them because you don't want gods destroying everything when they fight it out. Sauron didn't have a limiter on, which is why he could do all the shit he did. But Gandalf does, which is why when he goes up against the Witch King, freaking wow, man, the Witch King, he's not, and also he's not at his best form right there. He's been fighting all day in the siege of Minas Tirith.
The Witch King's just been hanging out on his dragon. He's fresh. He's ready to go.
He's fresh. He's got his gear is top notch, and he has the advantage because Gandalf's at his limit, and the Witch King is not. It's also because the Witch King is also being powered by a ring. Even though, yes, Gandalf does have the Ring of Fire, but Gandalf, well, per the rules, the Ring of Fire doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
The Ring of Fire is not something where he's going to go like this and do fantastical things with. It's a rule of governing. I mean, it's a ring of governing. It's a ring of order. It's not a ring of, I'm going to force push you or summon fireballs from the heavens.
Yeah, well, none of these rings have
No.
any sort of clear defined powers. Even like we're experimenting with it, we'll see what they can do. The elven rings, they create visions, they heal people, you can communicate with them. They there's all these random things that aren't consistent. They can make fish jump out of water. Like what do these rings do? And then you get the dwarven ones as well, where it's like, yeah, it makes you super greedy, gives you
get force
superhuman
push.
strength, force push, makes you a Jedi, and then you can just see a Balrog and get over it. I thought Thorin getting over his dragon sickness in the Battle of Five Armies was contrived, but wow, they managed to make something make less sense than that.
Mhm.
But the magic system is so ill-defined. Is the reason you can't make heads or tails of the power levels is because the magic system itself is nonsensical. Like in the first 2 episodes, Sauron is able to use his Beastmaster powers to tame the sea monster, to tame the warg, and then never does it again. It's like, well, why would you even display that power if you're not going to use it later on? And then they have Gandalf creating this huge whirlwind in the desert that, yeets Nori and her friend off, and you're hoping they go splat, but they don't. And it's like, he never does that again. He never, It's like,
Yeah.
they introduce all these things and then don't actually utilize them in any sensible fashion later on, when like that little whirlwind trick would have been really handy when he confronts the dark wizard, right? It's like, but no.
And when you deal with Tolkien's rules, as Peter Jackson portrayed it, wizards need their staves to use magic. Made it very clear. And a lot of wizard magic is tactile, at least the way Peter Jackson presented it. You have to touch something, got to put hands on. You can enchant things, because that's what Gandalf does a lot of in Peter Jackson's adaptation. Enchants a lot of stuff. That one of my favorite moments is when you get the flashback of him fighting the Balrog. He enchants his sword with lightning.
Yeah,
so that he powers it up, and that's a feat of power. But you understand it because we've seen him enchant stuff before. We see him when he returns. When he returns, when Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas come upon him in Fangor, not Fangor. Yeah, it was Fangor. Yes, Fangor. Yeah, Fangor. When he come on to Fangor, he heats their weapons. Again, that's enchanting something. He's not flinging shit.
Right.
The rules are understandable. This show fails because the rules are nebulous.
Yeah, like they can only affect the material objects. They can't actually fling elemental forces or something. That's the thing too that bothered me about the way they treated the rings. It's like when Durin force pushes his son across the room. It's like, that's not how the secret fire is not the force. It's not a Jedi power.
We talked about that. It is not the force. It's not something. It's just they don't know what they're talking about, and that leads to the next part of this. This show has failed because they don't know what they're doing, because they don't, and we kind of leaned into it a little bit here, they don't get the lore. They don't know about the lore. They don't care about the lore.
Well, I liked in your reviews how you pointed out all the Star Wars borrowing they did. Like, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. Like, I mean, if you really need a demonstration of how completely unimaginative and talentless these hacks are, it's because they can't even come up with their own magic system. They have to borrow it from other better movies, and it doesn't fit.
There's no originality. None at all. So we now talk about the lore. The lore breaks. Now, season 1, as we already kind of referenced, they only had access to the 113 pages in the appendices. And even with that, you could have done a better job in the first season. But they chose to, as we pointed out before, make a show centered around a character who was not supposed to be the heroine, so it's not supposed to be the protagonist. Galadriel is not the center of attention. But this is 2023 or 2022 to 2024. You have to have a whammons in charge and kick everybody's ass. But it just doesn't stop there. They have to destroy relationships. They have to fudge things so that you can have unnatural occurrences like Durin and Durin.
Right.
You have to crunch a timeline to have anything make sense. And that is one of the chief lore offenses this season, is how, and I think it was Alf that pointed it out last week. And Alf, I saw you in the chat, man. And if you're still here and you got time, you can come in. You got the link. The lore, in reality, Second Age, we're talking thousands of years. Thousands of years. But in here, everything's literally happening at the same time.
I wouldn't be surprised if all 5 seasons took place in less than 6 months in the end.
Pretty much.
Feels like it. I mean, how much time do you think passed this season?
This season, a week.
Yeah, but I say less than 2 weeks for somewhere on there.
I mean, if this were a real show and they cared about distances, I'd say over a year because of how much back and forth they have to do. But in the context of the show, yeah, a week or 2.
But they just teleport everywhere. Like Anatar just shows up in Khazad-dûm, and
well, Sauron can teleport. He can
Okay.
teleport. He is an entity. He is a being that can flip
A
around.
Rondir ran like the breadth of the map.
Yeah, that was my next point.
He ran from Mordor to Eregion in a day and a half.
pretty much.
And just last week or the previous in episode 7 when it was the test of the Sea Queen Muriel, Pharazôn Jr. was in town, and now suddenly in the final episode, he's pulling into port in Middle Earth.
Yeah.
What? How? I don't get it. So they break the lore. I think one of the reasons they're so happy to break the lore is because of the time crunch. Because they squished the time, everything together. Because go ahead.
We do need to respond. Arrow, yes, they did include the time in both the movies and the books for how long the Lord of the Rings took place. The Lord of the Rings trilogy took 13 months for him to, and a lot of the last, most of it was, in the first 11 months, and then the last 2 months was basically the epilogue, I believe, of Return of the King, up until, there's that massive time jump when Frodo goes to the Undying Lands. But yeah, for both of those, they absolutely say how much time has passed. The Hobbit is just over a year as well, because they mentioned that's how long the Hobbits had to wait before auctioning off his life. They had to wait a year for him to be declared dead.
And last year when you and I were doing Fellowship for Drive-In, we noted that the movie actually didn't do a good job of letting us know that years had passed between Bilbo leaving the Shire and Gandalf coming back.
At the very beginning, there's a little bit of ambiguity there, but the actual journey part of it is very clear. And I don't think it's that big of a deal that we don't know how long.
No, we didn't make a big deal out of it. Yeah,
because
we know
it doesn't
being objective,
change anything. Frodo's not interacting with the ring, so it's not like we need to see him being corrupted by it. So,
but I was simply being.
So I'm one of those.
We did touch on that
heretics who thinks the movies are better than the books, because part of the reason is I hated Fellowship of the Ring. I loved Return of the King. I think that's a masterpiece. But Fellowship of the Ring is a slog for me because they spend at least the first third of the book just in going through the Shire. It's like low-level D&D characters trying to, get their gear together.
And I love all of that.
Oh, I hated it.
Gives us stakes. We know why they're fighting.
I know, but
we gotta know what that tree looks like.
But the problem with the movies, the whole ring quest is so much more urgent and so much more dire. Like I just didn't feel any urgency in the quest in the Fellowship of the Ring. It was a real problem for me. So I don't mind time skips like that, but at least in the movies,
we're not talking about mining it. We're talking about
it was a huge deal with the geography. Like,
they show us though, is what we're saying.
Yeah,
the movies and the original lore show us.
It makes it feel vast, and these distances take a long time to go places.
Rings of Power plays like a goddamn video game.
Yeah, they just fast travel. They don't
fast travel, and they don't understand. And you mentioned stakes as part of it too. The reason none of this works is because they removed the stakes of it, because we know all these characters have plot armor. And we know a real person knows these events aren't necessarily all aligned with one another. Mm-hmm. Everything that's going on in Numenor happens way beyond what's going on in the Region. And everything that goes on, and everything that goes on in Khazad-dûm is ridiculously dumb, because the waking up of the Balrog happens after like 1,000+ years of digging deeper and deeper and deeper into the mountains. It didn't wake up because a leaf at the end of the first season fell through a crack and landed. Yeah, you forgot about that, didn't you? So
I tried to forget as much as I can.
A leaf landed and it woke him up, And then it just sits there and waits. And Jed, I know you weren't here for it, Leslie, but didn't you love it how you get the events of the beginning where during the third has his weird ass sleep. And Ariel, I saw you say it earlier. I'm sorry.
It's so
that
dumb.
legs akimbo leap is like in there. It looks so stupid.
Spoken!
And then he just breaks the Balrog sword or whatever, and then it's over.
And then,
He just,
but there's a
it's
point.
done.
It ends, it's over, and it's as though it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
They end the entire season with the dwarves. Oh, let's get ready for dwarven Game of Thrones. I'm sorry, what happened to the Balrog? So there's a problem. They don't understand that you can't crunch the time because now you've introduced an element into the dwarven storyline that is an element but isn't there yet because you haven't mined everything. You haven't even started really mining Mithril. You haven't started making shit. You haven't done anything relevant to wake up the Balrog, but now it's there. And it also introduces another problem. I mentioned this earlier. All their lore breaks introduce massive plot holes. So what do you guys think of this one? I mentioned it last week. The Rings of Power are all essentially out there now. You got the 3 Elven Rings, all out of order, mind you, all made out of order. You got the 3 Elven Rings.
Yep.
You've got the Dwarven Rings, and you got the Rings of Men. Now, let's put the actual lore aside for just a moment and play in the playground of Rings of Power. Okay, gentlemen, everybody knows that the rings, the 7 and the 9 are corrupted, correct?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Elves, dwarves, they all know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on the dwarven side, we got a shot of the 7 magical Cracker Jack box rings sitting there. And they haven't been handed out to the other dwarven lords yet. How many times did Durin the Fourth say, I will not touch this ring. I will not put it on this ring. He knows it's corrupted. He knows they're corrupted. How on earth do those rings make it into the hands of other dwarven lords to corrupt them?
I thought they'd already been handed out. Like
no,
I thought
we got a shot of them right there at the end. They're sitting there.
Yeah, there were emissaries who came to, see the rings, know that there's power, but during the 4th or 3rd, refused to give them out to the emissaries. It was for the lords only, so the lords haven't shown up to pick them up yet.
Oh, okay.
But Rachel actually had a theory as soon as we watched that part that perhaps the reason the dwarven rings are given out is out of desperation, because in that final scene they mention that the Durin's claim to the throne isn't as strong as it should be, so it might be a way to buy off supporters or contenders to the throne.
So they're willingly going to put corrupted rings out into the wild.
That sounds exactly what Disa would do.
Yeah, I'm so sorry we didn't get a sing-off, aren't you? We didn't get the battle song.
But it's still time. We still have season 3 to wrap everything up.
Yeah. So there's a problem. So they know the dwarven rings are corrupted, but they're going to send them out there anyway in some way, shape, or form. That's
which
a massive
just
plot
destroys the morality of Durin and Disa.
Exactly. And now let's take a moment and reassert lore. In lore, Sauron collected the dwarven rings after the sacking of Eregion. And then he did the whole handing them out as gifts as the Great Deceiver. Nobody knew. And as Alf pointed out during our Mordor Country streams, it takes a very, very long time for a ring to corrupt. And the dwarven rings were especially long because the dwarves have the vitality and the constitution to resist. And in the end, it only made them greedy. It didn't give them powers.
They're hardy folk.
Yeah,
as all old school D&D players know, dwarves have a constitution bonus.
Yeah, so so got a problem there. Got a problem.
I think part of that problem too ties into the whole timeline crunch too. Is these writers are not smart enough to grasp concepts like immortality. I think that's a big problem for them because they can't really wrap their minds around. Sauron's immortal, so he can take time, lay plans, and do these plans over thousands of years, like waiting for the maybe not that long, but waiting for the rings to corrupt their bearers. And Galadriel, they're like, oh yeah, she's young and innocent because this takes place a long time before Lord of the Rings. But they just can't grasp that, yeah, she's already thousands of years old at this point. Like, just basic fantasy concepts and sci-fi concepts like immortality, they can't even theorize. They can't even put themselves in the shoes of like, all right, what would an immortal person be? And that's one reason I love Doctor Who so much, because the Doctor is an immortal character, and they really delve into that psychology of what would this do to a mortal person who is so good and pure at heart after he's seen so much destruction.
Someone who's seen civilizations come and go and the toll it takes on his psyche.
It's got to have an impact on these characters, make them different than teenage girls in LA. That's all they seem to be able to write.
I didn't understand the whole thing with Sauron's plan, like his urgency to get the rings made before Eregion is invaded. It makes no sense. It's like, and he's supposedly orchestrating the siege of Eregion.
Dumb.
It's like, well, why would you just not tell the orcs to hold off until the rings are done? I don't.
Yeah, well, why bring the army there? The 9 rings he already had his plan for that. Just saying the dwarven rings were corrupted because he made some mistakes with the lying and whatnot. So he was already making the 9 rings. The siege he kept hidden from Celebrimbor, so the siege wasn't being used as motivation for Celebrimbor. There is no logical way that makes sense, and it actually hinders his ability to get the rings.
Exactly,
and gives Celebrimbor the opportunity to sneak them away. It's antithetical to his plans.
Now, Oscar, put a pin in that. We're going to come back to that later, but that is part of the reasons all this fails. But you guys are right. So Sauron's master plan is ridiculous because he has no plan. He has no plan. So we now go back for a second there. The whether or not the plan was good or not, the 9 rings of power in this version get made. The 9 rings of men get made. Galadriel loses them. Sauron has them. Okay, so post you again. Everybody knows, everybody who has any sort of influence knows that the 9 rings of men are massively corrupted. So when Sauron goes to hand them out, they're all just going to sit back and let those men put on the rings and have the Witch King of Angmar get created and all that stuff. I'm just going to let that happen.
Apparently. I don't even understand like the epic battle between Sauron and Galadriel. It's like, why does he want to destroy her ring? She already has it. The whole reason he wants the elves to have it is so ultimately he'll have the One Ring and be able to corrupt them through that. Why does he want to destroy the ring in that moment? Why is he?
I don't know if he wanted to destroy it. He just wanted it.
Maybe to give it to a more pliable ring bearer.
Because even in this version, the 3 elven rings are not directly corrupted by him. Which
they should be in the show. In the books, it made sense. He was not even there for their forging.
Right.
But the show
within the context of the show,
the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So none of this plot holes.
Yeah.
Plot holes.
None of it makes sense.
None of it makes sense.
So
even under the bearish scrutiny.
Yeah, I liked that little clip you used at the beginning about the stand saying, well, if you just isolate it from Lord of the Rings, which even though it has Lord of the Rings in the title, I think we should take them up on that challenge. Even if you isolate this show from the source material within its own context, within its own parameters, it still makes no sense. It's still a nonsensical story. It's bad fan fiction. No matter how you try to spin it. So in the final episode, Adar has Galadriel's ring. It's given him his youth back, his looks back.
Get it right. He's thirsty again.
Yeah.
He's thirst trapping.
Fair enough. And he's already laid siege to Eregion and broken the walls down, and yet he still thinks he needs Galadriel's help to defeat Sauron. He didn't need her help when he defeated Sauron the first time. He still has the special, crown that he used to kill Sauron the first time. Why does he give her the ring back?
Because he's changed his mind.
Shipping.
He's good again. He's good
Shipping.
now.
Is the character motivations just flip on a dime in the final episode? And it's like, you've been leading up the whole Adar character. Remember, like, Galadriel threatened to torture him in the first season. And it's like, and then he just flips and says, "Oh, let's be allies now." And the character motivations make absolutely no sense within the context of its own its own plot points. It's just nonsense.
Jay Fraser.
It's irredeemably stupid, and
It is
I'm
stupid.
sorry, Stans, you can't salvage this crap.
They don't care. And here's the thing: to answer Jay Fraser's question here, I think Wheel of Time is a worse season. This is made by retards. I don't think the people making Rings of Power hate Tolkien. They just don't give a shit. They just want to make their own little weird fanfic going on here. Rafe Judkins and his crew actively hate Wheel of Time. You don't do the things you do to that show and not hate it. I think in this one, the J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay and those involved, they're so wrapped up in their own bullshit. They think they're doing great work. They think what they're doing is they're feeding their modern audience. They think the modern audience really is a thing. These weirdos on Twitter who do all the fan art. They think they're actually giving people a great show. The people in charge of Wheel of Time, they hate Robert Jordan's world. You wouldn't do what you did to those characters in season 2.
They definitely hate his characters because they definitely subverted the characters in every single way they could, so that all the male characters in particular are completely unrecognizable.
I think at work, the best way to put it is that those involved in the Rings of Power have no respect. But I don't think there's hate involved. They just have no respect for what Tolkien did.
Yeah. I think that's true for a lot of them. Like The Witcher, I think Lauren Hissrich is just a moron. A complete, utter moron. But Tom McGinsky, I think he has hate in his heart. So it's kind of case by case. But I would agree. Rings of Power,
Judkins is absolutely malicious in his attempt to retcon to fit his worldview. It's really bad.
Rafe Judkins, that dude has a serious problem. He is a perfect example of someone who can't and thinks he can, and when he realizes that he can't, tries to tear down the works of those who did. And that's situation in Wheel of Time. So that is that. Hang on, Ariel has a question. If the sea is wrong, is it still right? Well, if it's the Queen of the Sea, then she has to be right because it's a woman.
Two wrongs always make a right with the sea.
Yeah. So that's that. In the end, the problem with all of this in this sense right now, as we've seen, is when you look at it like this. Put it like this, then change how I was going to say this. All of these things are linked together. Now we've kind of said them out of order in how we wanted to express these thoughts, but it leads to this point: when you have no respect for the franchise you're working for, when you're crafting it for a specific audience that cares only about who people are effing and what hole they're sticking it in, then you are already making it for the wrong reasons. Because you're not making it with respect to the lore and you're not making it for the real audience. Real fans.
It was just a cash grab from the very beginning.
I don't even know that. I don't even know if it's a cash grab. Spending $1.5 billion. I don't know how is that a cash grab?
Yeah, how do you expect to make money from that? They're morons, so they heard the phrase "you got to spend money to make money." So they're like, "If we spend all our money, we'll get more than that back." That might be in the entire thought process.
Here's how I look at it. I'm going to attribute it to the term I've heard used: vanity.
Yes, it was a vanity project. Yeah, I guess that's probably a better
It's vanity because saying, "Oh, look what we can do."
Right.
Look what
we're as good, if not better, than Tolkien.
And we want head pats from the industry of, oh, look, we put this big thing. Look at us, to bring it now back to what I said, put a pin in it. Look at us shoving in all this agenda. Don't tell me, Galadriel, Warrior Princess, is not agenda. Having her basically belittle everybody around her for 2 seasons. Having her show me once really, where she has paid for her horrible decisions. When she's been, maybe not paid is wrong, has been judged by those who can judge her for horrible decisions. Has she, at the end of season 2, has she received any sort of proper judgment for everything she's done wrong?
Not once.
No. Just failing upwards, as far as I can tell.
That's a good way to put it. Failing
upwards.
Upwards.
At least she's not the commander of the Northern Armies anymore.
No, but now she's the Lady of Light. because she glows at the end of the season.
Like
Literally
when she
glowing.
wakes up from her little coma, it's like the first question Don Lennon asks for is, "Well, what do you think we should do?"
Well, there's your point.
Oh, yeah. King
There's your point.
Gilgalad, it's totally like, please, mommy, tell us where to go.
Everybody looked to her in that moment. The High King of the Elves is sitting right there, and it's, oh, hey,
Yeah.
Galadriel, what should we do now? What should
She's
we do?
been unconscious, you guys. He is not in a position to give you orders. And then she's like, we fight, and they all stand up together. At that moment is so dumb.
Oh!
Somehow holding up the sword gives all the elves
Yeah.
hope.
And that is so not elvish behavior, right? there.
No.
That's not how Tolkien's elves behave. No, these are
There's like 3 dudes and all the women Galadriel saved. They need
Yeah.
to get to work to repopulate this
old
species.
fat women, bunch of old fat elves. What the hell?
Did you see any young elf boys saved? Because I only saw elf women and
No.
elf girls saved by Galadriel.
Only
He's very sexist savior.
ethnically diverse?
Yes,
Well, no, I saw the Native American elf. They saved
the
his
elves
ass.
of Benetton.
They saved the Native American elf. But yes, it stems from why they do this. They do this for the agenda. This whole thing stems from agenda to get acceptance from the industry. Look, we have black elves and black dwarves, even though none of that makes sense.
Doesn't make any sense. No.
I mean, just listen. I try to approach things with logic. And if you go by the logic of Tolkien's lore, the elves were born in an era without sunlight, correct? Where,
Yeah.
sunlight's kind of required to create high concentrations
Pretty
of
much.
melanin in the skin. All right. The dwarves are children of the stone. They're children of the earth. They live underground. Where's the sunlight to make them black? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, just basic anthropology. The further back in time you go, the more homogenous your population is going to be, racially, ethnically, in every which way. It's culturally.
Doesn't work. That makes sense. So you have that, and then suddenly Asian elves.
No, I do want to point out they finally had an in-lore people that they could have as diverse as they wanted, and they made them all wear skull masks.
Okay.
I don't know what they were thinking there, because you could have the people of Rune, the Easterlings, be as diverse as you want, and they're like, let's put them in masks. What was the thought process there?
I don't know. And black hobbits, but the point is this. They insert this stuff purely for more diversity, more inclusion, DEI, not understanding that Tolkien already accounted for ethnic populations in their regions of the world.
Yeah.
Kind of how our world worked in
Yeah.
medieval times, which this is based off of.
Yeah, black Numenorians. I like that. Yeah, black Numenorians. The black Numenorians, the diverse, the Numenorians who are essentially, Atlanteans.
Yeah.
These are the pinnacle of man, and they are isolated on an island.
Yeah.
There's nobody
Where
coming
did
in.
they get the injection of diversity?
I know. I mean, remember there was this one dude, I think, when we were looking at when Elendil got kicked off as captain of the guard. This one dude, man, his afro was pure, man. That afro was
It was magical.
He had a combination. It was a little bit Jufro in there too. Okay, a little bit of both, and it doesn't make any sense because they don't want it to make sense. They just want to do it to show off. Look at us. Aren't we great? Aren't we grand? And
But there's also, I think there's a hubris to it too, like where it's just, I don't know if they do it deliberately to cover for their incompetence or what, but the whole thing of putting Gandalf's identity in a mystery box that they did from the very beginning of season 1.
Put a pin in that. Put a pin in
Okay.
that. I have a whole specific Gandalf coming. I got a
All right.
specific. Put a pin in that.
You got Gandalf coming?
I hate you.
You work that staff?
He did work that staff.
He
with
is a
2
grand
hands.
elf
With
after
two-
all.
Oh, shut up. But the reason they do this stuff is for agenda, and then they take it farther. So first you have the injection of race. Then you got to get intersectional feminism in the form of Diza. Not just Galadriel, but Diza. Diza completely fanfic character created to be a race swap dwarf in there, but also given a created position in this new lore that does it. There's no such thing as stone singing in Tolkien's world. There isn't. Stone singing was created for this, and she was put into that position as the chief stone singer in order to give her a position of power where she can literally throw her fat ass around and have control and power to influence things. And then, of course, we come back, and now we can also connect the nebulous powers. So she's supposed to sing to find minerals and ores and stuff like that.
Sure.
But now she can sing as a pinging device when she drops a stone on the ground. And then she can sing to summon monster bats.
None of it makes sense. You can't like with singing for the tunnels that we see her doing this season. Expand the tunnels that are still open right now, the access shafts. Expand those. You know that area is safe. Don't need her to sing. Look down at your feet and you'll find the ball you're missing. Don't need to sing
It was
there.
right there. It was right
the most obvious place possible. And with the bats, I still hold true to my theory that she's been terrorizing these bats for decades. She's been eating them, torturing them to the point where they're terrified of her scream. So when she screams, they're just running away from her.
I like that.
Did some conditioning on them.
That's
why
the
she's
new
so
lore.
fat. That's bat meat.
That's the new lore. That's the new lore. Disa is a serial killer at heart, and she's torturing animals. I like this. I'm okay with that. She can't see her feet. Echolocation.
That's why the bats like her, because she uses echolocation too. Or would it be funny if they revealed she was like blind the whole time, like Muriel, but better at faking it because she can echolocate?
Oh my god! And then we could jump to that. Muriel, just
what'd she do this season?
She got shipped with Elendil.
She took a swim and gave her boyfriend a phallic object.
Yes.
Oh god.
She got wet and gave him a phallic.
She got tentacled by a sea beast.
Yeah.
I'll put it correct. I'll put it in a phrase that most people understand. She got hentai'd by a sea beast. Okay. She got
He existed because you need to have a woman of authority give Elendil his sword.
Yeah.
Give him his quest.
With no explanation whatsoever.
And that
goes back. Give him his purpose. That's why she exists.
There's so many lore problems with that. God. Pharazôn would have picked up Narsil first thing when he raided that.
Absolutely.
He would not leave Narsil out in the wind.
If it was actually a sword that she's making it out to be like a value, yeah, that's going to be the first thing you grab before the Palantir. That's a sign of authority. Because
that's also their most powerful melee weapon in their melee arsenal. That's Narsil. It's freaking Narsil.
And the more lore I learn about the whole Fall of Numenor thing, it's like it actually sounds really interesting. Like there's all sorts of things they could do. What an entire season of that, but they just
would have because here's the
warfare type thing, and it's dumb.
Here's why they don't want to do it, Joxer, because the Fall of Numenor, as I understand it, and lore people can correct me if I'm wrong, the Fall of Numenor is basically and I know Tolkien doesn't do allegory, but it is essentially a representation of what happens when you turn away from God, when you start worshiping the devil.
It's like a Christian spin on the Atlantis myth, basically.
Yeah. Because what happens is they're already jealous of the elves. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a segment of the large segment of the Numenorean population. They've grown over the millennia. They've grown jealous of the elves. They want their immortality because they're long lived, but they're not immortal. The faithful who still worship the Valar are saying, "Listen, we should just be grateful for what we have. This and that."
Mm-hmm.
They are able to maintain their faith, but most of them don't. And then eventually, after the subjugation of Sauron gets in Pharazôn's ear and corrupts it further, makes it worse. And you have the naval invasion that gets destroyed. And then after that, that's the fall. Then it's flooded. And that's, as Alf reminded me, because I didn't know this, I'd forgotten this, that it's the destruction of Numenor. That's where Sauron loses his physical form. Because he was there when it got destroyed by the Valar, he lost his form, which is why he had to recollect himself as energy and reform himself into as spiritual aspects later on. So that's a whole season, and it would be a generational thing. It wouldn't just be that ending in Elendil and Isildur and Pharazôn and Muriel, all those characters, and Sauron, who doesn't have to be the same actor,
right?
So but
I'm still wondering about that. What was it? A Indian dude that they cast instead of Sauron?
Whatever happened to him?
They made a big deal out of that in the lead up to the season, and then he just was Caesared right away.
No, it was a different actor.
Yeah, it was a different actor. Yeah, and then he's just gone.
Yeah. You know who? No. What I mean is the guy that they were announcing was a brown dude. We never saw him.
I thought that was the dude in the beginning. Was
that was
not different. They announced a different dude as being Sauron, and it was I think it was Indian, maybe Pakistani. And I was looking out for him. Never saw him.
I guess I had missed exactly what he looked like, and I thought that was the dude we got in the beginning. All right.
Yeah, although
unless he did brown face in his IMDb photo
after they announced it,
but either way, it's the problem with the lore and we get to the time crunch again. Disrespect. They don't respect it enough, and they're so obsessed with DEI, with making Galadriel the center of attention, with making sure that she wants to hump Sauron, that they don't realize that there are real stories they can tell for a full season. And I'm not just talking 12 episodes. They could get a good 15 to 20 episodes out of this stuff.
Right. But you also have to keep in mind the DEI is baked into the entire Hollywood system now. Like the Oscars have these quotas you have to meet just to be considered.
They found loopholes for those real fast.
But it's like they're upset. They are obsessed with it, but it's industry wide. It's not just Amazon. With their head in the sand. It's an entire industry that's totally focused on wrong priorities, basically.
Yeah, but it all comes together. It all connects from the disrespect and the pushing of agenda. And here you go. You have none of this shit that makes sense.
It makes them incapable of putting together as a worthwhile project, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you don't realize that you can get if you adhere to the lore. Not only do you earn the goodwill of actual hardcore fans or a casual fan like myself who understands the legitimacy of something based on lore, I may not be a hardcore Tolkien fan, but I'm a hardcore fan in other things, and therefore I respect when you stick to the lore, and that's going to make me a better cheerleader and a better promoter of your stuff. So you would do that. Tell the stories that are there. Yeah. Don't try to shotgun this whole thing and make shit up. Harfoots, Sourfoots, Fuzzyfoots, whatever the hell they're all called. We have a whole section of this show that is, listen, all of it is fake, but when we're talking about the stuff surrounding the elves, the dwarves, and the Númenóreans, it's a warped version of what really happened.
Yeah.
But when you get to the Harfoots, when you get to Gandalf,
the filthy little hobbitses,
everything they did, this is fan fiction. This is everything to do with Gandalf and the hobbits, or the Harfoots, or the cannibals. The cannibals. It's literally all made up. Because here's the thing. Gandalf doesn't arrive till the Third Age as Gandalf. We're not talking about Olorin. We're not talking about his Maya form and all his spiritual form, his angel god form. No, he is not old man Gandalf until the Third Age when he arrives in the Grey Havens with the other wizards.
And his memories.
I think
he has his staff too.
And he has everything. He has his whole gear set.
Well, except for the ring. Well, he's given the ring after he gets here.
But he has his basic gear set. He's got his hat, his staff, his robe, and probably his pipe too. He's got it all. But the Rings of Power showrunners defend Gandalf reveal. If there's any way we could justify him being around, it's just too tempting not to go there.
No, they just let it go there. That was the whole point. Is it's just too tempting. That's the whole point. Is they are just tempted by the member berries, tempted by this is Lord of the Rings. Gandalf's got to be in it. And I'm just shocked that they spent so long, like she's saying that.
Ariel, I don't know if you watched it. No, it's Gandalf.
They say Gandalf.
he is been revealed as Gandalf. It's not Radagast.
Mhm.
It's Gandalf. You
And
might be joking.
The
but
fact that
it's-
they mystery boxed this for 2 seasons, whereas as soon as we saw him in the trailer, every single person went, "Yeah, that's Gandalf."
And then with their stupid, there were all the lines, all the gestures in
His
season 1.
following his nose line at the end
Yeah.
of the first season clinched it.
Why do you think we called him Gandalf, not Gandalf, in our discussions?
The gall of these people to suggest that it was a reveal of any kind is preposterous. It's
Yeah.
not a reveal.
All right.
Everyone saw it coming. And it's like, again, that's why I say it's not just fan fiction, it's bad fan fiction. They spent all this time building up to this reveal of the name, but it's like Han Solo, at the Empire says he's on his own, and so they give him his name.
Stop, just stop. No, that didn't happen.
But it's like, what Tolkien fan lies awake at night? I wonder how Gandalf got his name. I wish I knew what that secret was. No one was wondering about that. And so
there is an explanation for it
too.
too.
Story point that people cared about is preposterous.
I believe Gandalf is a derivative of a word that means traveler, and so there is an actual Tolkien explanation for how he got that
Grand
name.
elf. Because they've never seen an elf, and it's first uttered by the retard.
Yes,
freaking retard. And no, I'm gonna say it just because I know it pisses some people off. But remember, Dre said it first. Aunt Jemima Mammy then says it.
Yes.
No, do you guys know people are angry at me for calling her Aunt Jemima and Mammy?
Oh, that's great.
Just
why would she like him?
They actually said to me, I was enjoying this until you said Aunt Jemima. Don't you understand? Your audience might not look like you. My response is, don't you understand that it was a black man who made the joke first in our discussions?
It's a great joke, but they can't even keep that characterization correct because I cannot see any realm where she would be okay with Gandalf because she hates big people and he didn't protect the village. The Dark Wizard just wiped him out, and he stood there going, "You're a Dark Wizard, you know me."
But I can use the Force and grab everything at the last second.
No, she would be scared of him, trying to get everyone away from him, not speaking to him. That's what they established with her in the previous episodes.
He saved all the villagers from getting crushed beneath rocks.
Not all of them. No, we did see a couple get crushed.
And that
one,
and
got crushed, and I cheered. I cheered.
It's his fault that they were in that situation to begin with, and she seems like the type of person who would blame him for that.
Yeah.
All right. However, despite the existence of the time discrepancy, as we've just described a moment ago, McKay and Payne say they still decided to introduce Gandalf to the Rings of Power because they believe that audiences would have been disappointed to not see the franchise's most beloved character. What?
No, the real fans would have preferred it that way.
Yes.
The book fans is what I mean, not necessarily real, perhaps is the wrong word, but the knowledgeable fans,
genuine fans,
Yeah.
genuine fans would understand. Oh, Gandalf isn't here yet. Okay, I'm okay.
It's not
with
a
that.
complicated concept. Yeah, he doesn't exist yet in this form. It's like
this is because they don't see us as people. They see us as these. J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay and their ilk. Everybody who makes this shit. And I'll say all the way to Disney Star Wars, same types of people. They think we're as stupid as they are. They think that we are the people that they're pandering to that need instant gratification, that need to see that thing they need so much all the time. Otherwise, they're going to start tweaking and not be able to handle it and shit like that. That's what they think.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand that real fans will be satisfied by correct adaptations that don't drift too far away from the real lore.
Well, that's why they are insistent on calling us consumers and not customers, because that gets rid of all of their responsibility to treat us like intelligent people with opinions and things that we want, need, and expect.
I just think it's the Star Wars equivalent of saying, well, every single Star Wars movie or property has to have Ewoks in it because everyone loved the Ewoks.
Oh, hang on a second, Ariel. Oh, they did talk with the Tolkien estate, and the Tolkien estate let them do it because the Tolkien estate are morons.
The Simon Tolkien is actively trying to destroy his grandfather's legacy. He talks about it. Like he's ashamed to be a Tolkien.
They just want money. They're happy to take that Amazon money. They don't give a shit.
I've seen interviews. I think he's he was just tired of being overshadowed. Like he's a writer in his own, and he was just tired of being overshadowed by his grandfather. And
that's why he hates his grandfather so much, because he's gonna overshadow him for life.
Yeah. Listen, I guess. I mean, Christopher Tolkien wasn't a writer, but he loved his father's works, and he spent his entire life protecting them.
And he was a great editor.
Yeah, that works too. I mean, but obviously the creative gene didn't pass on through the family line, or any sort of integrity. But I guess that's what happens when you get that kind of generational wealth, and you're not the one that made it, and you don't understand what went into it, and therefore you have no respect for where it came from, because it was always there, and you think you're entitled. What?
I was just going to say, getting back to that challenge of, trying to isolate this story from the source material, how on God's green earth is the wizard figuring out what his name is a satisfying storyline?
Because it isn't. It's retarded.
It's like, who is in suspense? There's no stakes in that.
There was no
even
story.
Call the plot is generous. It has a beginning, middle, and end, but why should we care what his name is? It's just bonkers to me that they think people care about.
Listen, Christopher was so protected. He hated everything that everybody ever tried to do. He hated everything. Sometimes he had to bend the knee a little bit to make a little money, but he hated Peter Jackson's trilogy. He despised it. Despised every moment of it. But he didn't. I don't know the exact details of what his level of interaction was when it was being made, but he was not happy with it. And listen, I can kind of see where he's coming from, but Peter Jackson was the best possible outcome of any adaptation that was going to happen. And most people, even the most hardcore of hardcore fans, accept that, because the difference is, as opposed to this stuff, there was love and respect put into it. There's no love and respect here. It's just, we're going to do what we want. Asked during a recent interview with Deadline's Mike Fleming Jr. if they could provide any behind-the-scenes details regarding Gandalf's introduction, McKay began, "We talked a lot about him over 6 years. We knew we wanted..." Sorry. I'm going back. I'm trying to choose a screen to look at here, and I keep looking back and forth. I'm going to go with my regular screen. "We knew we wanted a wizard in the story, and we talked a lot with the Tolkien estate about what it takes to make it feel like Middle-earth. It's like a Christmas dinner," he explained. "You got your turkey, you got your stuffing, you got your cranberry sauce, you got your mashed potatoes. If you don't have one of those, here. You've got halflings and dwarves and humans and elves. You need a wizard in there to make it real like Middle-earth." No, you don't.
No,
because the wizards weren't always there. Jesus Christ. Real quick, Jay Frazier for £5. "Hail, gents. Is everyone looking forward to Greta Gerwig's Netflix adaptation of the Chronicles of Narnia? It can't be worse than Rings of Power, right?" I'm looking forward to it.
Because it's Netflix, no.
Man, I'm looking forward to it. That's gonna be that'll be a joy.
Oh, I bet you they're gonna try to make you sympathize with the witch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind that she will be sympathetic.
I prefer the BBC TV movies that were done in the.
Oh, you remember? Oh man, the production value was so rough on those.
Oh yeah.
Man.
But the acting was great, and I thought they were decent adaptations of the source material.
Oh, they were very accurate. It's
probably the only silver chair movie we'll ever get.
Oh yeah, we're never getting there at the Hollywood Silver Chair.
And Silver Chair is one of my favorite books of that series. So I don't know.
That's around where I stopped. Because when even as a young man, I was like, prequel. Why do I want to go back in time? I don't care about.
Most
prequels.
of the other books are just unadaptable because they're so wacky with their timelines and stuff. So
Silver Chair is not a prequel.
I thought it was a prequel.
No,
there's only 2 prequels: The Magician's Nephew, which is about the professor.
That's what I'm. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. Never mind.
And then Horse and His Boy is kind of a prequel.
I reversed it in my head.
The third one,
but you can never do The Last Command. No, I mean the Last Battle. Last Battle. You can never do the Last Battle.
There's no, especially with that ending. That's. I was getting a little Stargate vibes when I was watching Stargate. I was thinking about The Last Battle. It's like that door at the end. It's like, is that just a Stargate? They just went to another planet.
Yes, but I mean, now I liked the first modern adaptation movie. I thought that was done really well. The Chronicles of Narnia. That was a good one.
I didn't like Prince Caspian. Most people didn't.
I like it too. I enjoyed it. The third one was completely off the rails, though. That one was so off the rails. But the problem with Greta Gerwig is that we know who and what exactly she is.
Yeah,
we know exactly who she is, and she was given this job for the exact reason because we know who she is. Mm-hmm. So I expect, like I said, I expect the witch to get her own backstory of that will empower her as a Whammons. Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if the White Witch is black.
No, she does have a similar style to C.S. Lewis in one specific aspect. C.S. Lewis is not subtle. That's one reason I'm not a fan of Chronicles of Narnia. I'm not a fan of. I've read all of them.
Jesus Lion. Jesus Lion.
It's not subtle. Like Tolkien, he weaves it in where you can like see it in there, and it's so much more rich. But Chronicles of Narnia, it's like, yeah, that lion's Jesus. This is that. Like it's so in your face, and that's exactly what Barbie was. We're like, we're feminists. Get it? She's a feminist icon. It's kind of the same. Like, do you get it yet? So,
I would say the Chronicles of Narnia is juvenile fiction, so I'm willing to cut it a little slack. But it's
Greta Gerwig is likely. I'm not going to say is, but is likely to spin this the wrong way.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
Aslan's going to be a trans metaphor.
They'll make it from the perspective of the White Witch, and she's the done hard by character all along.
Yeah,
and she was right to freeze everything.
Yeah. Oh, she's gonna go so hard against Edmund. Edmund's redemption arc in that story is actually really good. I like Edmund's redemption. But she's gonna go so hard against him, be like, this little boy is such a villain.
Yeah. And I guarantee there. Not guarantee. I'm like 99% sure they won't let Aslan kill her. She'll have to take herself out.
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. So I will. I don't have a timetable on though. I haven't heard much of that lately. So I think
I don't think they have a release date. Yeah,
they're not even they're not in production. So we're at least probably a year at most.
Oh,
I don't see this till 2026 at least.
At least, yeah.
I don't see them doing a better art design job than Weta Workshop. I mean, I don't think it gets a whole lot better than that.
Yeah. So I don't. So when it comes around though, I will more than likely review it because hey, I know C.S. Lewis. I'm good with it. It's stuff I'm familiar with. I can easily review Chronicles of Narnia very easily. Thank you, Jay Fraser.
That all in one drop too. All of that cringe in one day, probably.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's Netflix, so I don't know. Maybe they'll learn their lesson and stop.
Someday they might
stop batching it. Listen, if you guys want to hear us talk about that, this Sunday on Roundtable, we are going to be discussing Netflix and their seasons and in relation to some other stuff. So that's going to come up this Sunday on Roundtable. So stay tuned for that. We're definitely going to go into that. All right. So no, back to this. No, we didn't need a wizard. Gandalf didn't need to be in this because there is a lot of Lord of the Rings lore, Tolkien Middle-earth lore that doesn't involve a wizard.
Most of it, in fact.
It's like saying the Ewoks are Star Wars, and you can't have a Star Wars property without Ewoks in it. It's just dumb.
I don't know if that's the perfect example, but I like it.
So the question is, which one? So he comes to Middle-earth, and at first he doesn't know who he is without any explanation as to why. He just doesn't know. And it was a journey of discovery for him. And in some ways, also for us at first, we just knew he was a wizard. And then as the pieces really started to come together, he said he's a wizard who is found by halflings and who becomes really close to the halflings. It's as though, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't think they were even sure they wanted to make him Gandalf in the beginning.
I don't think they had a plan. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like they're just making it up as they go along.
And you can kind of feel that to bring it back to this season and why Gandalf in this season fails. Jed, how long do you think he was on screen in the roughly, with extra minutes, 8.5 to 9 hours? If you count every extra 10 minutes here and there, it's almost 9 hours worth of television. How much on-screen time do you think Gandalf had?
I think I might be slightly generous with this, but I'd say 20 minutes.
I was about to say 15 certainly no less than 15. I mean,
I think Dermy and I actually tried to work this out last week. I think if you add in the bulk of it, which was in the first episode, maybe an hour.
okay.
That much.
Maybe
That's
an
how
hour.
forgettable it is. That's how much feels like happened is 20 minutes worth.
He did nothing. He wandered around. He ate bugs. He said, "You'll know your name like a warm hug when you find it." And I'm looking to grasp my staff and jerk it off a little bit once I get my hands on it. I mean,
And you have to think about how everyone chooses their own names. No name is given or something like that. It's like,
Yeah.
Most are.
Yeah.
Most are given to you.
Yeah.
It's kind of the whole point.
So he did nothing. He doesn't even really save anybody. He just does a massive forced telekinetic grab. A couple of Harfoots die, or whatever the hell they were, and then he goes and sings with Tom Bombadil.
He's not even really a character in the story because he
No.
spends most of his time with amnesia. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't have a mission, doesn't have a purpose.
At the same time, you say not a character story. The entire Nori, Poppy, Gandalf, Dark Wizard in the desert thing, it doesn't connect to anything else
No.
in the sea. Just like last season, everything they did last season doesn't intersect with any of the other plot arcs. At least the other plot arcs, for good or bad, all intersect in some way, shape, or form. This arc, it's literally out there, wandering around in the desert, doing nothing, affecting nothing.
Well, they give you hope with the whirlwind where the Harfoots get yeeted, but then nothing comes of it. So
yeah, so so they decided to. This might be the epitome of vanity.
Yes,
in terms of people creating something just to make themselves feel good.
Yeah, like I said, to me, this is the hubris of their to try and compensate for their incompetence. They, like you said before, they think they're smarter than Tolkien. They think they're better than him. They think they can.
It's childish.
Yeah,
we want to do this, so we're going to, and nobody can stop us because, as we mentioned, Simon Tolkien and the Tolkien estate are fully on board with this shit. There is nobody to check them. So they're just going to do what they want to have some sort of self-satisfaction of, look, we put a Gandalf in there because we wanted Gandalf in there because we think everybody's like us and think that Gandalf defines Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. But even remember the rocks fell out of the sky and to reveal that the constellation they were looking for is still overhead?
Oh, Jed, remember when I got told that you couldn't follow a constellation to something? Well, he did, apparently. And he could have done that the whole time.
That was so dumb. That's not how stars work.
No.
Yes, it can get you a direction. So if it's like, hey, go towards this constellation, as in your quest lies to the east.
Yes.
But he straight up went to Tom Bombadil and it's like, hey, these stars are over your house. What's up, dude? It's like, no, they're not.
We mentioned they're going to mention
if the stars are directly overhead, they're going to be above wherever you're at. So
and you mentioned Tom Bombadil. Close to halflings, can you McKay? A couple of centuries later, Gandalf, he actually runs into Tom Bombadil at the end of his time in Middle Earth. Yeah, in actual lore. In this one, that is one of the other major lore breaks of the season. Tom Bombadil
getting involved and then singing about himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you listen to the lyrics, they actually explain how the costume designers failed on his.
Like his boots were yellow. They should be. Yeah, you're right.
And here's their excuse. A lot of things started coming together that really sort of pointed us to this wizard should be Gandalf. So, Jed, they just proved they didn't intend it to be Gandalf.
They just needed wizard.
And you know what? They might have been able to get away with this if it had just been a prototype wizard brought in second age. You could have gotten away with this, saying, okay, this isn't one of the 5 wizards. This was an experiment wizard. They wanted to see how the Valar wanted to see how it would work if they put one down there. And while retarded, you could have avoided a lore problem.
Yeah.
You could have dodged it. And then I
could see that.
Yeah. Then all I could say is it's stupid. Then that's all I could say is that it's stupid. I couldn't, but you say we made it Gandalf, and we love the character so much. There's hints, and this is why they did it. I predicted this. Everybody with more knowledge than I did of of Tolkien's world predicted this for the season, that this is the excuse they would use. There's hints also that Gandalf may have come earlier than the Third Age and wandered among some of the peoples of Middle Earth. So we went with that. Yes,
that's the spirit.
Olorin, he was there, but he wasn't seen. He was just there, observing, watching, silently interacting.
The Prime Directive was in effect at that time.
Great way to put it. And I had somebody actually try to tell me that when I criticized them, when they had basically said this shit. Gandalf is so integral to everything Lord of the Rings. It's so great that they're showing us his story. And I said, yeah, his story doesn't begin to the Third Age. I said, thanks, fake fan, for playing. So you're the fake fan. Don't you know that Olorin interacted with the elves in the Second Age? Like, yeah, Olorin as a spirit, not
and
Gandalf.
Interacted is the wrong word. He voyeuristically followed them.
Yeah.
Sure, but
Gandalf doesn't physically become an active player until the Third Age. And it's not like in the beginning of the Third Age. You're into the Third Age.
Yeah, it's pretty
appears.
substantial.
Yeah, I think Alf said 1,000 years or something like that.
Well, my question is, using this logic, do you think they've decided who the Dark Wizard is yet, or they left that ambiguous on purpose?
As the joke goes, a sour man.
He's just a sour man, Gandalf. He's so sour.
He's a sour man because the guy said, I'm one of 5. So,
he's got to be one of them.
Unless he gets hit on the head and turns into Radagast. I don't know.
Or maybe he dies and is replaced by one of the 5. So there's 5 at all times.
Maybe he gets cleaved in 2 and they heal him into be the 2 blue wizards. I don't know.
He's both blues.
Maybe. I don't know.
That would be hilarious.
I love it. So it just shows you.
Are the Nazgûls the others?
I don't know.
There's 3 of them.
No, there's only 1 left. They only summoned the 1 back. The other 2 are gone.
Well, the other 2 might come back. But yeah, maybe that's Radagast. Nazgûl is Radagast.
I don't like this game. But this proves it. They do this shit to please themselves and to please idiots online who are not real fans, who are fake fans and stans, who think they're fans when they recognize something, because that's how you know a stan. They get excited when they recognize something. Oh my God, he looks like Gandalf. I'm so excited. I love this because I love Gandalf.
Well, that's the meme. Remember Gandalf? Remember? It works on them. That's all they can do is, hey, I recognize this thing. I've seen it before, therefore it's great.
Yep.
So remember Grace Randolph, like all these other shill things for Star Wars are talking about, they're happy about the Easter eggs, like the Marvel stuff in particular.
Oh, I wouldn't know. Grace Randolph blocked me. I don't see.
Like they actually think the Easter eggs are the point. Like they think that's the lore drop. They actually are entertained by that sort of thing. I don't get it.
I approve of this. Fusion ha! I would pay real money to see them do that, to become the Dark Wizard. That would be fantastic. Anyway, but so it comes back always. They don't care. And they want to put an agenda in there. They want to craft it the way they want to do it. All right, so let's see. Where are we in all of this? So we talked about it. All stems from the point, as I said, they don't have respect for it. They want to do what they want. So it stems from agenda. So they're going to start from there, and then it spreads out to the weirdness, to appeasing the wrong people by breaking lore to create situations that are, to most real fans or genuine fans, we can put it like that, distasteful and disgusting. Most people were disgusted when Elrond kissed Galadriel. They were disgusted by that.
As they should be.
Yeah. I was looking, I was in objective review mode. So I immediately, while he was doing that, saw his hand putting something in her hand.
Sure.
So I was going, oh, it's a distraction, but it's a retarded distraction.
But then the orcs in the room just stand there and watch. It's like,
are they getting off on it? Would orcs care to look away?
Listen, they might have been.
I know one of the best moments in Empire Strikes Back is when Han kisses Leia and the stormtroopers yank her away, and then they have the famous line about, he already knows that she loves him. And it's like,
but
but like because of the way the Rings of Power is written, there's no way they earned that moment.
Oh God, no.
I mean, and rightfully so. Like just said, people were disgusted. I was annoyed, but I was more disgusted as it was such a clearly cheap thing to do.
Yeah.
For a distraction, and done because it was made to gratify and satisfy the sexual deviants watching this, as opposed to they love doing the forehead to forehead thing all the time. They could have done that, could have done a hug, could have done just like a hand, kept a hand on the face. There could have been so many things to do that wasn't overtly sexual, but just emotional. But no, they have to do the kiss. They have to play romantic music. They have to have it linger.
Yes.
All because they wanted the shippers, and
the music is what killed me. I couldn't believe it.
So we get back to that. Even though we started the show talking about the shippers, that's who they were planking the shit for in the end. Weirdos, not real fans.
Even the scene before that, where they have the whole cavalry charge, and they stop the cavalry charge just because Galadriel is in a cart.
Yeah,
and I don't know how much you guys know about cavalry charges, but
they're not easy to
if the
stop.
first row of horses comes to an abrupt halt, they're going to get steamrolled by all the rows behind them.
I hit the button on my mouse that kicks me. There's one button. I mean, it's a multi-button mouse for gaming. So there's one button that apparently, if I'm going at an angle, my thumb will hit it, and it's the automatic kick me.
That's weird.
I was offended by the fact that the horses don't have air brakes in real life, and that they.
Yeah, all the times I've ridden a horse, I want to know where that upgrade comes from.
I've ridden a horse twice in my life, and frankly, it was kind of a guided tour type thing, so I really didn't, kick it into gear or anything. But that whole thing, and when we talked about it, suddenly their formation vanished.
Yeah,
so they could stop in a perfect line. But it all stems to messaging. They're either sending messages to the people that they want to appease, or they're sending messages to people they want approval from. Yesterday, when this came out, you have to have some real, complete, unawares balls to actually admit that you made Khazad-dûm a metaphor for climate change.
Oh, it gets worse, son of jocks. If you haven't, it gets worse. Like his explanation for how they framed it. But yeah, the climate change has nothing to do with this. What is this fracking? Is the dwarves delving too deep somehow a metaphor for fracking?
No, let's read this. Let's read it. So McKay and Payne compared the destruction of Khazad-dûm to climate change. In an interview with the Hollywood Reporter following the conclusion of the show's second season, McKay was asked by James Hibbard, over in Khazad-dûm, I always had the impression that once the Balrog was released, he wreaked havoc and drove everyone out of the mines immediately. But in your story, this is more of a gradual corruption process, that the city is still occupied and they're still going to be fighting for it going into season 3. How about we mentioned it, they just forget about it. A tiny little cave-in stops the Balrog.
In Fellowship of the Ring, when they get to Khazad-dûm, they say, this isn't a mine, this is a tomb. Someone wiped out the entire population of dwarves in that mine. And I'm thinking the Balrog had some help with the orc army and everything. And I thought, well, that's why the Balrog is there as a lore point. But then Durin does his little kamikaze run, and then I guess we don't have to worry about that anymore.
It's just going to go back and wait till they come back and clear the path.
Like, was there a cave-in that we missed that blocked off that little area?
That tiny little cave-in right there, just in that entrance. That was it.
That's all it took?
Yep.
That's all it's separating them from the Balrog, which could have literally, with one claw, pulled those boulders aside and decided to keep going.
He's like, I'm tired. I need to go back and take another nap, and so Durin can send his army to help.
Yeah, I also like how the dwarves showed up to the battle, even though they're in the middle of a succession crisis.
Well, they said,
they got there immediately.
They said, we can't leave because of the Balrog. Okay, cave-in happened. We can leave now. McKay responded, this is a thing. How do societies fall? Because of fucking commie Marxists like you, that's how. Usually it's gradually and then all at once. If you want to use climate change as a metaphor, climate change is not an event. Climate change is real. Climate change is a process that ebbs and flows that's always headed in a dark direction.
This is trying to be so pseudo-intellectual. They're trying to compare it to the fall of Rome, obviously, with how that took a long time to happen. But the Balrog isn't corruption from outside forces. It is not a denigration of the Senate and the political motivations of corruptible men. It is a force of nature. That's what you can apply
kill
to.
You. I'm going to rip you apart.
The better metaphor isn't Rome. It's Pompeii. Even though that wasn't a kingdom, obviously, that's the better example because it is a force of nature that is going to come through and wipe you out. There is no motivation. There's no reasoning with it. There's no, hey, we're getting more evil, so the Balrog is getting a little bit more wakey. It's not an ebb and flow. It is, I'm coming
off
to
guard. Like they've been living next to this volcano for centuries, and then nothing ever came of it. But then one day the whole thing goes to shit. And
I mean, Jed, you just watched Fellowship. The dwarves dug too deep, and they awoke something.
Yeah,
and it killed them all.
It would have had to be pretty instantaneous to have the type of corpses that we, the amount of death that we're away from, the absolute destruction.
Yeah,
and that's just not how a metaphor can work. You can't have the fall of Rome and climate change be compatible with each other, let alone with a monster from the dawn of time who's a Maiar. It's like a lesser god who's in monster form of fire and shadow who just destroys everything in his path. Yeah, that's the exact same thing as climate change, guys, and the fall of Rome. Didn't you know that? It's exactly the same thing.
I think a kingdom as great and powerful as Khazad-dûm does not fall in a moment. Well, I'm sure it didn't fall in a moment, but, they had nowhere to go. And they were trapped.
The best example is The Hobbit 2. When Smaug showed up, that was a kingdom of dwarves. That was a fearsome monster come to steal their treasure. Yeah, that's exactly how it would happen.
Yeah, and if you want to go again by physical adaptation in Peter Jackson, when the battle in Moria is happening, and the goblins have marshaled themselves to kill the Fellowship. Yeah, all that commotion woke the Balrog up again. And an entire army of goblins ran for the freaking tunnels. They didn't go just like, there.
Oh, we've got a little time. It's climate change coming back, guys. We've got a little time to get ready for the waves that are coming.
We're talking a monster from the first age that would go like this, whoosh, and kill all of them. And even Gandalf didn't want to fight it because Gandalf, with his limiter on, knows that he can barely take that thing. And he barely took it. He did die fighting it. He does die.
He dies fighting. This monster is beyond any of you.
Yeah.
And there's no ifs and or buts about that. That thing is wiping out civilizations.
Yep. The fall is the product of many disasters over time. And I think it would sell Khazad-dûm short for the Balrog to get out and then it's all over. It's more complicated. We think there's a bigger story to be told there. No, that is the story.
That's where he just revealed it, though. He wants to drag it out because that's one of the only ideas they have is Balrog. So they can't just finish that story because then the dwarf story's done and they're out of ideas. They have to drag it out as long as possible.
Let's go back to what we talked about earlier. Take this actual arc a season at a time, a whole season for it. You start when you get to the dwarves. Sauron deceives them and gives them a ring. And you watch as the ring corrupts them and they get greedier and greedier. You can have a little leeway. You can create some dwarven family, noble family interactions that do some Game of Thrones shit. If you want to generate some drama, that's fine. But it all continues to go deeper and deeper into the mind. You go farther and farther. And then somebody opens up a passageway and, oh shit, what's that thing sleeping there? Uh-oh, I'm dead. And then the Balrog is awake. It senses everything going on and says, oh, yeah, I'm going to kill everything here because that's what I was created to do. Kill everything. I'm a killing machine. And then we'll proceed to climb up there and destroy everybody because that's what it did. what it did.
That's why you don't introduce it too soon in the story.
Yeah, well, they introduced it in season 1. It was retarded. And so there is this. It isn't something that can just eat away in you. Like Jet said, it's a physical, natural disaster that will wipe you out.
It's an extinction level event, and they just
a couple rocks, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're good to go. Leave the mountain, go help some elves."
Yeah.
And the thing that they're not taking into account is climate change does not have a will in their eyes. It is just nature changing in their eyes. The Balrog has a will. It has motives. It has desires. It has, like you said, it's practically programmed to kill.
Yeah.
So
and there
as soon
were
as
lots
it
of
sees
them.
people, it's gonna tear out that wall and keep chasing the dwarves.
I mean, you realize once upon a time that there was a horde of these motherfuckers, and it took like first age elves fighting them, and some of their heroes were powerful enough to fight them off. This is something that is, like you said, beyond normal creatures, and it would just destroy. It's not going to sit there and just put out a poisonous miasma to rot everything. It's not how it works. Its shadow is not a miasma. It's a part of its. Oh, fuck it, whatever.
It's not something sent by the Valar to punish the dwarves or something like that, and be like, "Hey, get better. I'm gonna punish you if you don't go righteous, dudes." It's not like it's not a parent trying to teach or scolding or anything like that. It is just an evil force of destruction.
they can't appease it with carbon credits. They can't just shut down their coal plants and make it go away.
Yeah. And nothing's going to stop it at this point. And are we going to get more Mithril with it out? Maybe Galadriel's going to fight it. Galadriel might fight it, and maybe that's how they make the One Ring. Sauron fights the Balrog in it, and they, come together, and it makes the One Ring.
Ew. That's a pretty big
The Balrog helped make the Mithril because, like we were saying at the beginning of the stream, they're so obsessed with the shades of gray.
The tree lightning struck the tree, and it made Mithril.
Like Mithril's got light and darkness in it. No, it's just ore.
It's metal. It's just metal. Really good metal.
Yeah, awesome metal. It's hard, but that's it. It's not Cimmeril, Balrog, elf, lightning jizz.
All right. In the Silmarillion, Tolkien described the downfall of the dwarves. Sauron gathered into his hands all the remaining rings of power, and he dealt them out to the other peoples of Middle-earth, hoping thus to bring under his sway all those that desired secret power beyond the measure of their kind. 7 rings he gave to the dwarves. The dwarves indeed proved tough and hard to tame. They ill endure the domination of others, and the thoughts of their hearts are hard to fathom, nor can they be turned to shadows. They use their rings only for getting wealth, but wrath and an overmastering greed of gold were kindled in their hearts, of which evil enough thereafter came to profit of Sauron. So he preyed on essentially one of the deadly sins, greed. And that was the downfall of the dwarves. And that was the corruption of the ring.
It does not sound like that happened overnight.
No, generations.
Generations, and the One Ring had to be there to enact that will over them. There's no will getting enacted.
And that's the problem. That's another, as we've been talking about, another plot hole that's missing in this whole thing. The One Ring should exist already to trigger the other ring, because without the One Ring, the other rings are not going to go into full corruption mode. It's the One Ring that turns on the corruption and puts them under the sway of Sauron.
Yeah, so they have to have several years of complacency to build up before you can actually exert your will on it.
You want them to trust the rings, and that's the whole point of the One Ring's line. One ring to bind them all, and in the darkness bind them. Without the One Ring, there's no darkness binding.
Yeah, they're just happening.
It's not his blood inside of them or whatever.
And here's where the lore break is why it makes it so bad. Because however, as for Khazad-dûm, the kingdom was not destroyed until the Third Age. In Appendix A of the Lord of the Rings. So wait a minute, it's in an appendix. Which
you have rights to that.
Rights to that. Appendix of Return of the King, Tolkien wrote, "It came to pass that in the middle of the Third Age, Durin was again its king, being the sixth of that name." Middle. The power of Sauron, servant of Morgoth, was then again growing in the world, though the shadow in the forest that looked towards Moria was not yet known for what it was. All evil things were stirring. The dwarves delved deep at that time, seeking beneath Barazinbar for the mithril, the metal beyond price that was becoming yearly ever harder to win. Wow, it's almost as though they kept trying to squeeze the resource dry, which is a legitimate and a legitimate industrial result, something that Tolkien is famously hateful of. Tolkien hated industry. So, of course, he's going to put in here that maybe squeezing industry or using industry to squeeze a resource dry would result in a disaster. Normally, which results in a economic disaster, but in this case, it woke an evil. Last I checked, that's not climate change or has nothing to do with climate.
That's just environmental conservation. Like,
yeah,
Tolkien was upset by how industries were sort of slowly encroaching on the English countryside, and he thought it was the countryside is worth preserving.
Yep.
And the industry, I mean, it seemed like this unstoppable force that, the entire society was, profiting off of, and it's like, how can you stop that? It does seem like a force of nature.
And well, it says right here, thus they roused from sleep a thing of terror that, flying from Fangorodrim, had lain hidden at the foundations of the earth since coming off the host of the west, a Balrog of Morgoth. Durin was slain by it, and by year after 9 his son, and then the glory of Moria passed, and its people were destroyed. So, according to this, if I read this right, right here, it says, it took a year.
Mm-hmm.
It just took a single year for the Balrog to basically force them to flee completely, because it killed everything, and then they all ran. They ran.
And it has the year there, 1981. The Battle of the Last Alliance takes place in 3434 of the Second Age, and that's kind of where it resets over. So this is about 1980 some odd years since the Battle of the Last Alliance.
Yeah.
And then the Battle of the Last Alliance was about 1,200 years, I believe, maybe 1,500 years after the forging of the Elven Rings, which were the last of the non-One Ring.
And the fall
That's
of
a
Numenor.
lot of time. Yeah, and then, of course, the fall of Numenor is closer to 3434. Yeah. That's a lot of time between the fall of Khazad-dûm and the events of the Forge of the Rings.
So this is all it's confusing, and it hurts because this is so easy. How is this hard to comprehend? It's not. These 3 paragraphs right here lays it all out. The fall of Khazad-dûm. How do you get a metaphor for climate change out of this?
I mean, you can read environmental messages into it.
Well, that's true because Tolkien did not like what industry was doing to the world.
Right.
But
he's famously against the Industrial Revolution. That's all of Sauron's story as well.
Yeah, but this is not the fabricated idea of climate change that we have to deal with now. It's not there. You have to really take a big ass step outside of reality to make the Balrog, which was simply literally a creature sleeping at the bottom of the world. That's how they had to dig really far down there to wake it up.
I have a prediction. We all know that Numenor is basically Atlantis, right? And it's going to sink at some point.
Yeah.
Is it going to be because of climate change and rising sea levels? That they're going to industrialize Numenor to the point where they have factories and something, and it changes it's not actually the Valar. It's actual climate change that makes the sea rise.
I guess the sea was angry because the sea is always right. I don't know. The sea got angry.
Yeah.
It's just
We see the Balrog melting ice caps in the north. He's just like, I'm going to drown those dudes and just stabbing icebergs in the north.
But I think it's basically gets back to what Adam was saying at the beginning of the thing. It's like, this is how the agenda ruins the show.
And it all stems from that. It's all
they're forcing their own hand to make these weird mistakes that are completely unnecessary, but because they feel the need to shoehorn their agenda in, ends up making them goofy
It
mistakes.
starts from that, and then it leads to every single aspect of agenda entertainment, from race swaps to gender swaps to intersectional feminism to forcing the not so secret agenda into all of it to just to feed two things. I come back. They're trying to feed two beasts: the people they want head pats from, and the people they want to cheer them on.
Yeah,
the fake fans.
And because that's where their priority is, like I said, that's why I think it makes them incapable of telling a good story.
Yeah, because they're not here to tell a story; they're here to lecture.
This project was doomed from the very start because they're incapable of telling a good story because their agenda matters more.
And that's the truth. That is the bottom line of it all. And what we have discovered from this in the end is, like you said, this is why these things will always fail. The autopsy conclusion, it failed because of, it's not just one sickness. You could call wokeness as a whole, this whole thing, one sickness, but it's actually a lot of different things that make up this disease that kills these entertainment projects. And it stems from people, I guess I can't put it around it, wanting to please people that they want praise from and to be praised by other people.
Yeah.
I think I said that wrong. I said it better earlier. My brain's starting to lose it. This kind of concentration discussion of this shit does melt your brain a little bit.
Well, it's just the whole concept of all these franchises trying to make it for the modern audience that doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. It never exists.
I would say Rings of Power in particular, considering how much it costs to make, proves that the modern audience they're chasing does not exist.
Well, and you mentioned that because this is the last thing I want to talk about here as we get down to all this stuff. Now, when we were doing the Acolyte, Jade, as you well know, we were very happy to bring up the ratings and how it failed. And in that moment, it was very easy to use. Let me see if I have these in the right order. I think I do. Yeah, I do.
Do we have the Nielsen's for episode 4? Is that what you're building?
We have. Well, I'm getting. I do have them, but here's the thing. I'm leading up to that. You were right though. The Nielsen's are not accurate. Remember when we first talked about? You said, Adam, your assumption of breaking down is quite right because you look at the episodes. They list every single episode on there.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't moved much on the Nielsen's. I did have it. I'll bring up. I have episode 4. I have 5 right now. Hang on. I have 5 here. I don't know if I saved 4. I thought I saved it. I don't think I did though. But I do have episode 5. But I can tell you, and because I'm honest, I am not a liar. I will own up to it. Here we go. They didn't move that much. On the overalls, let me get it up here. It dropped to overalls for episode 4. It only dropped to second place on overalls. But as you can see here on overalls for episode 5, it dropped down to the middle. But it's still getting over that billion minutes viewed.
That's the same number.
I don't know.
It was. I thought it was 1019 for the first 3 episodes.
No, it was 1015.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, but but you were right when you said that. Number of episodes, 12. There may be chicanery going on here, both in 2 ways.
There's gotta be.
People are watching season 1 and season 2 because that's all. It's Rings of Power. It's not Rings of Power season 2. It's the Rings of Power. So Nielsen is counting all minutes viewed for all possible episodes when taking this into account.
Well, this number is physically impossible then for episode 4 because what it implies is there's the people watching the other seasons like you're talking about the other episodes, but it's also implying that the first 3 episodes got the same amount of viewership roughly as episode 4 did. So episode 4 tripled in viewership.
What that's why this episode 5 too. This is 5. This is
okay.
This is 5.
Well, so 5.
So it's barely so. But the point is this though. Nielsen with the million minutes viewed metric is not an accurate way to see how it's doing right now. Which brings me to this then, that Samba in this instance for Rings of Power is a much more accurate measuring stick.
Mm-hmm. It at least does just the episode.
Because it's just the episodes. So here we are. Here was the premiere. When it premiered for Samba, it was number 7 on Samba.
That's the
Okay.
premiere.
That's the premiere.
That's
Then,
really bad.
I think I have these right. Yeah. And then here is episode 4. Moved up 1 spot. Okay, fine. We can understand that.
Depending
Episode
on what
5.
else is going on, yeah.
Yeah. Episode 5. Dropped to 8 now.
I'm sorry. In that previous screenshot, the Secret Life of Mormon Wives beat the Rings of Power.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
But now here's episode 5. And now, just for comparison, this is when Penguin came out.
Oh, yeah. Penguin annihilated it.
And now it's dropped to 8. And here is episode 6. It's almost. Is that okay? Wait, no, 2. Wait. Hang on.
No, I don't think that's
I think I went the wrong way. Sorry.
Yeah.
These are out of order. Damn it. I thought I had them in order. Crap. Okay, right. So this is 1.
1.
1. This is 4. Sorry. This is 4.
That's 4. Yeah.
This is 4. 8. This is 5. No. God damn it. This is 5. This is 5.
Okay.
Damn it. So 5. All right. Hang on. All right. Hang on a second. Hang on. This is getting bad. I need to renumber. I got to renumber these. Hold on. I thought in the time which I pulled them off of Samba's Twitter, I thought that they would be some sort of accurate thing. Let me retitle these so when
I think the overall point still holds is that the Nelson stuff is. Those are the numbers over the entire
million minutes viewed.
The show was out.
Well, it's taking
12 episodes
for all existing episodes. Yeah.
So in that time frame, so the Nielsen's they cover, let's say 7 days. It's I think closer to 10, but whatever. The time the Nielsen's cover, it's how many minutes watched of all 12 episodes. So whoever watched season 1 in that week is counted towards the viewership of season 2.
Yeah,
and that's that useless metric at this point.
That's why useless. Million minutes viewed is a broken metric.
Mm-hmm.
It's a broken metric, which is why it is that for a first season like Acolyte, it worked because that's all there was.
Yeah,
so we can.
It's great for first seasons,
but
or
for something
as good as we have,
but for something like this now, it's inaccurate because 1, they're just going to keep putting them out there, but then 2, we don't know what people are watching. And there's also the other thing that Amazon is, I know for a fact that we were talking about this on Chatterday last weekend. People were Amazon will auto start this if you have auto play on Prime.
They've done that since the beginning.
Yeah. So what's a view? What's a view? All right. So
for season 1, it was looking at the Rings of Power page on Prime.
Okay, so I think I've numbered these correctly.
Okay,
Here we go. A boomer, so you can all shut up. Here is 1 through 3 premiere, number 7 on Samba. Oh, motherfucker! God damn it. They're out of order. Why is 2 down here? God damn it. Fucking. They're still out of order. Hang on. Okay. There we go. Now they're in order.
Are they?
Damn it. Yes. Shut up. You actually saw me do that because I didn't kill the screen. Great. Leave me alone. I'm tired. No, I'm not tired. I had plenty of sleep last night.
Oh, they're out of order.
No, they're not. This is 1, 2, 9. They're not. It's not zoomed in. It just looks like it's out of order. Shut up. All right. So 1 through 3.
Yep.
7. Episode 4 moved up to 5. Okay, fine.
What else
then
is on?
Suddenly, no. What else is on? Nothing.
I haven't heard of a single one of those.
And I hadn't even heard of this Chaos. We'll be talking about that on Sunday.
Oh yeah,
about that. But I'm saying nothing came out. So then episode 5. Went down 1. Okay, starting to drop. Episode 6, premiere of Penguin. Look at that massive drop. And then the penultimate episode. We don't have the numbers. At least when I collected these, I didn't have it for 8, the finale. But here is episode 7. Almost falling off.
Is this 7? It looks the same.
No, see, there's 8.
Oh, there it is.
Goes to 9.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah. But there it is. There it is. Samba is a more accurate snapshot of its failure because Samba even though it's only getting input from a specific type of data, like on your TV or a stick or something like that, that's still people watching that episode, that single episode. And let's be honest, as much as it's still something that I can't personally comprehend, people use their smart TVs to watch streaming stuff.
Yep.
So that's how they do it. I mean, I don't, but people do. This is an accurate reading as opposed to Nielsen. Nielsen is not the accurate reading it was for, like we said, for Acolyte. Now, real quick, it's been a couple of days since I got this. I'm going to see real quick if Samba has updated. Oh, if I can spell correctly. There it is. If Samba has updated with the current one. No, they have not. It has not updated yet. So we are just going to see. Will the finale be at 10, 9, 10, or off?
It probably needs to finish the week, so we'll get it tomorrow or Friday, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. But in the end, this whole thing has been a failure. It as much as the ex-Twitterverse, as much as the shills, the stands, the fake fans, these people who are pushing it want to pretend that it's some sort of grand success, it hasn't been. They've spent $1.5 billion on this so far. And don't get us wrong. I think we're all in room here. They get a season 3 because they're contracted for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were trying to pretend at the end of last week, they're going to announce a season 3 any minute. Take that, chuds. They're contracted for 5 seasons.
Yeah.
There's no if, and, or but. Of course they're going to get a season 3. Will they continue? I mean, that's the question we're putting out there. Will they pull the ripcord on this? Will they have an escape hatch clause, which I think there has to be a built-in.
Because in retrospect, we found out that the viewership for season 1 dropped off by what, 60%?
70. They retained only 30% of the premiere audience by the end of it.
So they're still losing viewers is the main point.
So out of that remaining 30%, let's just say that 30% is in there, and we're including that because we're gluttons for punishment.
Sure.
If that cuts in half, what's left? That is one of the core issues in all of this stuff that they want to pretend isn't happening. It's the Acolyte issue all over again. They made this for a specific audience, and guess what? That audience showed up. They showed up in spades, every single one of them, but they don't amount to anything. They're a minority. They're an extreme minority. And what we see here is their mental breakdown of it not registering with everybody else. Not to mention the fact that get back and get ready for 2 years of waiting.
Yeah.
Amazon
has ads in front of their stuff now. So if you're an advertiser, what you want to know is the per episode viewership. Because you don't want to when you're negotiating your price for your advertisement, you want to know that the viewership at least remains plateaus so that you are paying a fair price for each episode. If there's a drop off and that's consistent, then why would you be willing to pay the same amount for the entire run of the show?
Yeah, they will be required by law to disclose their actual viewership numbers to their advertisers, but their advertisers are mostly likely under NDA, so something would need to leak for us to get those. But yeah, those numbers absolutely do exist. They know what the truth is, and the advertisers are probably not very happy with this. I mean, advertisers usually do it for the platform rather than specific shows. Like there's not a car company that's like, I want to sponsor the Rings of Power. Sure. So they might not be delving into the numbers that specifically, but those numbers do have to exist for these contracts. But yeah, they're most likely under NDA. But what I wanted to say, I miss when TV shows could come out once a year. Like it's not that hard. They used to do 22, even back way in the day, 30 some odd episode seasons every year without much issue. But now they're like, 8 episodes every 2.5 years is really hard, guys. It's honestly a little sad.
What I'm watching on Amazon right now is an older show called Persons of Interest.
My mom loves that show.
Just because it was recommended on FNT a while back. and it ran from 2011
seasons.
to 2014, 5 seasons,
5?
20 odd
4.
episodes every season, and
I think the last season was shorter.
it was like a couple episodes shorter. Yeah,
It was like 15 episodes, something like that. Yeah.
Disbrew said that it keeps getting better every season, and he's right. They up the stakes every season. The characters get deeper every season. It's like
that's a favorite show of my mom. I'm actually
it's
I'm getting her the
Spotify.
complete
It's
season for
actually-
Christmas this year because she likes
actually
it so
has
much.
a lot to do with AI and how it can be used against
And had a really good cast too.
Yeah,
Quality cast.
absolutely. And it's like, I mean, almost all the entertainment I watch is all old DVDs, older shows from it, for sure prior to 2015, because that seems to be like the cutoff for decent stuff.
Just about. I mean, Jed,
the
what are you
writers'
watching
strike
right
also.
now?
I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time, and I'm absolutely loving it. I'm in the beginning of season 3. Didn't watch much while I was traveling this week, but I just had what's the wife's name? Shari?
Sure.
Sorry, yeah.
Sure, right. I am in the episode where did Teal kill her or not? That's the one. I'm partway through that.
All right,
one.
that is it's a great episode. It's that's a good episode just because of the lessons Daniel learns in that one, the way it happens. That's good. Yeah, that's good. But yeah, you're right at the point now where Peter DeLuise, the eldest son of Dom DeLuise, took over and became the showrunner, and he really solidified the direction of the show, and it just keeps getting better. And Showtime was giving them a bigger budget, so the show continues to improve in its visuals and consistency. So yeah, you're now at the beginning of stuff. You're going to get introduction of certain villains in this season. Oh yeah,
let's hope we get better villains, because I never was a fan of Apophis.
You're gonna get some better Goulds. The Gould villains are only good. You're gonna get good ones. You're gonna get more variety of Goulds going forward. So you're gonna get a really good variety of Goulds, and it's gonna be fun. It's so good. I can't wait to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, I envy you being able to watch that show for the first time. That's good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. People are going back in time. I mean, generally, I cycle between watching movies when I'm not reviewing shit, watching movies, watching anime, and old shows too. I cycle back and forth, either from my direct collection or other means. And right now, I just finished a massive anime binge from a couple weeks. So actually, I just finished the only new I ever get is a new season of anime. That's the newest stuff I get every 3 or 4 months when the season ends, and I collect everything I might want to watch and I go through it. And I got one show left. I got the current season of My Hero Academia to get through it, and the season actually ends in a few days. So I'm waiting for that final episode. So I'm kind of but that's the new I get. Everything else, it's rehash, it's rewatch.
I'm only looking forward to one new thing right now: movies, TV shows, even gaming to a certain extent, and that's Arcane season 2 next month. But I'm so worried about it. Do not screw this up. I absolutely love season 1.
Yeah, so everybody tells me to watch it, and you know what's going to happen. I'm going to say no. So I just
this is the final season. So if it ends good, that might be a little bit more incentive for you to try it, watch it, binge it. But
everybody was so hot for it, and everybody keeps telling me to watch it, and you know me, it's like I will do the exact opposite.
The only thing,
just like with Stargate, I let you find it in your own time, and here you are, happy as can be.
Mm-hmm.
That's my philosophy. Let somebody find something in their own time. Don't try and make them.
The only thing current I'm looking forward to is the back end of Cobra Kai.
That's not done yet.
Far behind.
I mean, I didn't watch any of this current season. They've got the other half coming out in a month, and then
November,
the last part coming out in January or February. So I'm just waiting till next year. Good job, Netflix. I'm gonna wait. I'm looking forward to it, but I mean, it's kind of just a small pleasurable thing. I'm not riveted to it. Right now, the most excited thing I'm looking forward towards gaming is next year when I get to play the remasters of Suikoden 1 and 2 and Lunar. That's what I'm most excited for gaming. Yeah, there are other games I'm going to get that look cool that are new, but my true excitement is for these things that were great back in the day, and I want to share with people who haven't seen them or played them. So, but Rings of Power Season 2, as I say in the title of the stream, the bad was baked in because it's the same stuff they did in season 1. It just gets worse. They double, triple down on every single thing that they believe in. Diversity, inclusion, intersectionalism, and then bad writing and storytelling made for people who are morons, who think that abuse is romance and that forget the lore. We don't care about lore. People who do not care about lore. Now, if you genuinely like this show, mazel tov. I hope, but the people who I think genuinely like the show and don't yell at us are very few and far between. They're happy to just exist with it and watch it and like it for what it is. But they're not the people who, when I question somebody, I say, they go, "Oh my God, Halbrand is the greatest form of Sauron, and him and Galadriel's love affair is so great." I'll just say, "Show me in Tolkien's lore where that happened," and I get blocked. Those are the people that
shouldn't be enough to trigger someone.
But it has been. I've said in certain cases, in any of these cases with the Rings of Power this past couple weeks, I'll say, "Show me in the lore where Tolkien did this," and I'll get a block. Now, sometimes I'll get a little more salty and a little more trollish, and I'll say something that maybe a little more deserving of the block, but it's generally the same strain. I will call them out for claiming to love this and love Lord of the Rings, but I'll just say, then why are you okay with this change? And they have no answer except to either re-at me or block me, which both are cowardly in their own way, as opposed to trying to make an actual argument. Because for all these things, we could say for all these things that we constantly review and criticize, there is no real argument from stans as to why they like it. It's just thing I like, thing that appeals to my ideology. How dare you question that? Bigot. That's the only answer they ever have.
It's indefensibly bad. It's even on its own terms, in its own context, and its own goals, story goals. It fails on every level.
It loses its own narrative half the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't really talk about the writing itself, but what is else to say about that is the fact that, like you just said, they lose track of their own canon and continuity. They lose track of everything they set up. And the writing, the dialogue is abysmal. It's abysmal. It's all tell, no show. It's all exposition.
One of the final scenes, Gandalf tells the audience what is, I know what my test was now. It was to choose my friends over accumulating power. Like, we couldn't figure that out just by watching the show. They felt the need to explain it to us.
Yeah, and it's writing that leans heavily on literally copy and pasting from Peter Jackson.
Yes.
So they don't know what they're doing, and the acting is abysmal across the board. I can't name somebody in this show that really does a good job. Now, some of them, Charles Edwards is a good actor. I have seen him in good things, but his Celebrimbor is retarded and stupid and not engaging at all. But we're talking about people who see Asian elf who ends up being a pincushion go, "Where is she?" before she dies. "Is she okay? Is she all right? I need to know how she is." They actually...
Is she even dead? Death means nothing
she's dead.
In this show.
She's dead. She's dead.
She might just show up in the next episode saying, "I am totally fine." Just like a Rondir.
She's dead because she had to die because Elrond has plot armor. That's why.
Stop Asian hate.
Listen. Well, listen. There within those who don't have plot armor, the tier of who can't die is obviously ends with Legolas the Black. He can't die because he's a black man, and he still has that high tide fade, and he has some he has some story. What was his story? Just to talk about the story and the writing. What was his story? My girlfriend died.
Not even that. He wasn't sad about it. So
okay, all right. I really like trees.
He's a deadbeat surrogate dad. I don't know.
I mean,
I think the trees had the most impact on his character.
He wanted vengeance against Adar, but all it took was 3 words from Galadriel to peel him away from that when he could have ended the assault right there.
I don't know.
This whole entire show is meaningless, is pointless. And I will say this, the part of me that runs a YouTube channel right now is sad to see it go because it was doing really well for my channel. I like it. But the creative side of me, the actual fan side of me is glad it's over because one should not have to suffer watching a franchise be destroyed by lesser people. And even though Rings of Power, we go all about season 1, was the turning point where the line in the sand was drawn, and as a whole, fans said we need to get it done. When we need to not let them do this, we're gonna let this end here. They turned it around, and we've been fighting back ever since. And I'm very happy that this has all been rejected in the way it has. I really am. And I think more and more we are going to see a sort of continued rejection across the board, where we saw it with the Acolyte, we saw it with we're seeing it with Doctor Who. These things, nobody wants a shit. And I want this to kind of be one of the last times I have to really, I think, sacrifice part of my soul doing this shit. I really do. I mean, I can do it, but I don't. And some people might think, and this, and just to wrap it up with that, and that didn't make sense what I just wrote. I know.
But look at all the articles that came out in the past 2 weeks about toxic fandom and what a problem it is, and how it's steering the conversation. Clearly, we are winning.
You guys got it. I just wrote something to Jed. I typed a word that didn't make any fucking sense in what I was saying because I wasn't looking, and my fingers just typed something else.
I think I got the gist of it, but yeah.
I just looked at the word, I'm like, what did I just? Yeah, that's like a Dermy, right? I just did like a Dermy. I just did a word that makes no goddamn sense in relation to what I was meaning to say. But yeah, you're right. It all connects to the thing where they're reacting to the fact that they've lost this. And back to each other, the core point is that they are the minority. There are more of us, and we are winning. It's not over, but Rings of Power, it's going to lose its feeble traction that it even had, and it's all downhill from there. I mean, like we said, I don't think this has any further connection. What the hell was that? What the hell? My tab crashed. That's weird. Anyway, all right. Yeah, we're gonna end this here. Yeah, my brain has melted. I was trying to do 3 things at once there, and it failed. Anyway, all right. So we are wrap it up. We have reached the end of it. I covered every point. Unless anybody has an extra point, I'm happy doing it. And suddenly my back end on YouTube is all crap. So, Jed, if you survive the hurricane, what do you got coming up?
Well, no specific plans for the channel right now because I don't know when I'm going to lose internet power or when it's going to come back. So I hope to be on Roundtable. Absolutely. That's the plan right now. And then Saturday Night Drive-In coming back to both our channels. I'm sure you'll talk about it. But there's one last thing that I wanted to mention. I'm sure we'll go into greater detail on Roundtable. But the news today about the guy who's been hired on as a writer for the Harry Potter TV show on HBO Max, I feel like that's so applicable here because that for those of you who don't know, the Harry Potter writer basically said, hey, I know doing an accurate adaptation would be very successful and make a ton of money. I just don't want to. I feel like that's exactly what J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay thought going into this is maybe doing accurate Tolkien would make us a lot of money, be very successful, be beloved, kind of like Peter Jackson's trilogy, but we want to make this our own. We want to prove that we're better than Tolkien and everybody else. And that mentality is practically universal these days of they know what will do the best for them and be the most successful. They just don't care.
They don't care. Yeah, and that's definitely going to be part of the discussion. I saw that right before we went live. I was like, oh, damn it. This show is, the Harry Potter show is teetering on the edge of either massive success or massive failure.
I'm leaning towards failure for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. It's going to be good for us either way. So this is my point, though. I don't want to do this like this anymore. I'd rather be doing not negative reporting. I don't get off on being angry over shit. I don't. It's not healthy. But it's the job. And like Doctor said, they hate it that we're reporting on the job. That's why they call us toxic. That's what they try to label us. Joxer, what you got going on?
I've been on a Diablo 4 bender lately. They just came out with a big new expansion for it, and they completely overhauled the crafting system and rescaled the entire leveling system. So I got a bunch of games ahead of me, but I don't know that it's a game worth streaming. Like,
you never know.
I don't know.
You never know until you.
I'm not. I would just say go visit my website, MrHook.net. Has links to all the websites I ever made, including some old fanfic I wrote for a show called Roughnecks, Starship Troopers Chronicles. That was one of my first forays into fandom. My first,
I like that one.
First fan site I ever made was for that show. So,
all right. As for me, rest of the week, we'll see how the rest of the week turns out. There'll be gaming on the gaming channel, Renaissance Art Arcade, as we finish up Dragon Age Inquisition to get ready for Veilguard. Friday, Ballbusters at 11 p.m. Eastern over on Dermy's channel. Then, as Jed said, we're back for Saturday Night Drive-In. Our first fan choice movie night has concluded, and you fine people, you actually didn't hurt us. You gave us real movies. So we were expecting the god-awful worst. We really were. We thought you guys were going to pick the horrible, horrible things just to make us cry. But no, you chose an actual selection, and we are watching Equilibrium, starring Christian Bale, and I forgot Sean Bean was in it, man. I forgot Sean Bean was in it.
That's how Sean Bean got the reputation that he dies in every movie he's in.
Yeah, that must have been. So I forgot he was in it, and we'll be watching that normal time, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll be right back here and on Jed's channel for that, and then Sunday Roundtable, where I already alluded a couple things we'll be talking there, and then Mellow Mondays, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, where hopefully everybody shows up on time, and I'm not basically doing natural 20 for an hour and a half. Samuel, it's not his fault. He got caught up at work, and Devil had his every 3 weeks. Devil does a political show, so I wasn't aware that I was going to be alone for an hour and a half, so I didn't know I needed to prepare solo stories to talk about. So I was like, oh shit. I got through it. It was fine. And then, so thank you one and all. No end dance. Thank you one and all for joining us. We'll be back with another autopsy whenever something else finishes or I feel the need to break something down. I want to thank both Jed and Joxer for joining me this evening. It's much better when it's just me. It's much better when it's not just me. God damn it. That didn't.
Yeah, I was about to say, wow, I shouldn't have even shown up.
I am punch drunk. I have no excuse. No, it's all serious. No, it's much better when it's not just me, when we can bounce it off other opinions like that and talk about stuff. And I ramble less. And I'm rambling now. So I'm just going to end it before I make a bigger fool of myself. We're already into that. So thank you one and all. Without your support, we don't get to do this. I know that I don't always say hi to every single person, but we are reading the chat. We try to interact with you as much as possible, depending on the kind of stream it is. And we appreciate all your support. We know we can't do this without you guys. So thank you one and all. Hit those like buttons, subscribe to channels, and we will see you guys next time. Until then, take it easy.